Pokémon, medicine and martial arts. Hey! Look who's back for more adventures. We love having you here to continue this story that keeps us all awake. Important note, all of this is pure fiction, so don't try any techniques you hear here in real life. Your neighbor might call the cops. This amazing novel and all its rights belong to the original author. We're just the ones giving it voice and drama. Are you enjoying the show? Prove it by subscribing to our YouTube channel and leaving that like that motivates us so much. And if you want VIP access to exclusive content, our Patreon is waiting with things you won't find anywhere else. Chapter 101 Search. Xiaoxi's eyes were filled with a rushing river, flowing unstoppably downward. The current was accelerating. A Chinese scholar or poet present at this moment would surely have uttered the verse, "The torrent plunges 3,000 feet, as if the Milky Way were falling from the heavens." A waterfall. Xiaoxi closed her eyes in fear, but she still clung to the hidden dragon. Furthermore, Xiaoxi was a relatively fragile woman, and her strength was running out. She was swept ever faster and faster by the surging water towards the waterfall. Got it. Seeing Xiaoxi edging ever closer to the waterfall, Yu finally arrived at this critical moment, grabbing Xiaoxi's waist. However, due to the immense resistance, coupled with the need to carry Xiaoxi and the hidden dragon, Yu was completely unable to move his hands and feet. Even his Grandmaster status was useless, and he could only swim slowly upstream. Feeling the resistance of the water, Yu's face darkened as he channeled all the energy within his danchin into his hands and feet, determined to reach the shore as quickly as possible. Fantasy is beautiful, reality is harsh. He'd already used up a third of his danchin energy, but Yu had only swum a short distance. Hold on, Yu. I'll go get some help. Serena paced anxiously on the shore, suddenly thinking of the golden Gyarados that Yu had retrieved from his Pokeball. Oh my god, how could I have been so foolish to retrieve my Gyarados and leave it on the picnic blanket to bask in the sun? Yu thought of his own Gyarados and immediately felt a surge of regret. Damn, my cultivation is still too low. If I keep this up, I'll definitely be swept down the waterfall. At this thought, Yu grew even more determined, pouring all the remaining energy within his danchin into his hands and feet, determined to fight tooth and nail. You know, his ruthlessness wasn't for nothing. Even he himself was afraid of it when he got angry. His rage indeed increased his speed noticeably. Pika meanwhile, Pikachu on the shore found a vine from nowhere, swung it around with a powerful flick of his head, and landed directly in front of Yu. Seeing the vine floating in the water, Yu quickly reached out and grabbed it. The moment Yu grabbed the vine, a dead tree hurtled toward him, carried by the current. Because he was holding onto the tree with one hand and the vine with the other, he couldn't free his hands. Facing the oncoming tree, Yu could only barely sideways, using his right arm to block it. But the current was too fast, and with a muffled groan, Yu was carried by the tree toward the waterfall behind him, and Pikachu was caught off guard and dragged under with him. Even Air, who was rushing toward Pikachu, was too late to help and could only watch helplessly as Pikachu was dragged underwater. In just a moment, Yu and the others had been brought to the edge of the waterfall and swept directly down. Yu, Xiaozu, Pikachu, seeing no sign of Yu on the surface of the river, Air collapsed to the ground, stretched out her left hand and screamed, then covered her mouth with her right. Even as strong as she was already sobbing. Air, are you okay? Where are Yu and the others? At this time, Serena hurried back with a golden Gyarados Pokeball. She saw Air slump to the ground, staring blankly ahead, tears falling silently like pearls. On the surface of the water, Yu and Xiaozu were no longer visible. Wow. Yu and the others were swept down the waterfall. I could have saved them, but I was too slow, Air cried with a hint of remorse, throwing herself into Serena's arms. She had completely lost the older sister she used to act in front of Serena, and her voice was choked with sobs. How could this happen? Upon hearing this news, Serena was struck by a bolt from the blue, and she froze in her tracks. But she knew Air was feeling even worse than she was. Witnessing her companions being swept down the waterfall was something not everyone could understand. She took a few deep breaths and forced herself to cheer up. Although tears welled up in her eyes, Serena forced herself to stay calm. Air, it's okay. This isn't your fault. Besides, Yu is so strong, he'll definitely get out of this. Right. Woo! Suddenly, two clear, heartbroken cries echoed from the riverbank. No, we can't just sit there and wait for death. In the end, Air, who was more mature, recovered first. Wiping away the remaining tears from her eyes, her gaze revealed an unprecedented determination. Serena squatted on the ground, her face tearful and endearing. So what should we do? Since they were swept under the waterfall, let's search downstream. We'll definitely find them. Meanwhile, downstream, two people and their pets drifted along the river. The water was like a lurking arbok, waiting for its chance. No one knew where it would flow. At the moment the waterfall crashed, Yiyu, with his remaining strength, pulled Pikachu, still some distance away, into his arms, holding it tightly. At that moment, Yiyu was unaware that a brilliant light suddenly blazed in his storage room, illuminating the entire space. If one listened closely, one could faintly hear something crackling. Gurgle, gurgle. Suddenly, several pairs of eyes emerged from the water, moving in sync with Yiyu and the others' movements. Rocket, have you found Yiyu and the others? Rocket, is that so? Thank you for your hard work. Please help search for them some more. Rocket Air sighed helplessly as she watched Rocket depart once more. Air had already arrived downstream of the waterfall with Serena and Yiyu's other Pokémon. Upon arriving, Air immediately released Butterfree and Melodic, along with Yiyu's Rocket, Fluttershy, and Golden Gyarados, to conduct both air and water reconnaissance. She, Serena, Vixen, and Vixen led the land search, shouting as they collected. Even so, they still hadn't seen Yiyu and Xiaoxu. Air, we've been searching for so long and still haven't found them. What should we do now? It's almost dark, Serena said worriedly, wiping the sweat from her forehead and glancing at the gradually darkening sky. Alice. That's nothing we can do. How about we set up camp here and continue searching tomorrow? That's the only way. I believe Yiyu is so capable, they will be fine. As they chatted, the two girls suddenly fell silent, watching the sunset, wondering what was going on in their minds. Chapter 102 Unexpected Conquest. On an uninhabited island, two figures lay. A giant crab, crawling up from the shore in search of food, moved sideways but steadily moved toward one of the figures. However, this crab was significantly smaller than the others, clearly underdeveloped. The crab approached one of the teenagers and first tapped him on the head with its claws, making a muffled thud. After a few hits without a response, the crab, seemingly amused, reached for the teenager's butt, which was slightly raised from his side. Its powerful claws gave a relentless smack. Ouch! My butt, the teenager cried out involuntarily, sitting up in confusion. However, the sudden movement caused a Pokémon hanging from his waist to fall. The frothing giant crab was caught in the act. The Pokéball landed squarely on it, and with a flash of red light, it was engulfed within the Pokéball. Yiyu hadn't even managed to shake the Pokéball before capturing the giant crab. Ouch! My head hurts. Where is this place? A gentle breeze, filled with the fragrance of earth, blew gently towards the uninhabited island. Yiyu clutched his aching head and glanced around warily. Wasn't I swept away by the waterfall? How did I end up here? Yiyu propped himself up with his hands and stood up. Oh, right, where are Xiaoxu and Pikachu? The thought brought Yiyu to his senses, and he immediately took action, heading out to look for them. However, his body, overexerted, lost its balance, and he stumbled over a petite figure, falling headfirst into another pretty figure. Pikachu, a muffled groan escaped, and Xiaoxu and Pikachu slowly woke up due to Yiyu's movements. Ah! Pervert! Xiaoxu opened her eyes and saw Yiyu slumped over her in an ambiguous position. She panicked, thinking she'd encountered a hooligan trying to molest her. Without even checking who was on top of her, she raised her delicate hand and slapped him. Ah! Yiyu screamed, her hazy mind clearing up. She looked at Xiaoxu, whose eyes were blazing, and said innocently, Xiaoxu, why did you hit me? You still say that? You big rascal. Get up right now. Xiaoxu's face was filled with shame and anger. Ah. Sorry, I didn't mean to. Yiyu quickly stood up, extending his right hand to help Xiaoxu. Xiaoxu hesitated, but finally placed her hand on Yiyu's, allowing him to help her up. Glancing around, Xiaoxu nervously asked, Yiyu, where are we? I don't know, but it looks like this is an uninhabited island. Yiyu casually picked up a Pokéball that had fallen nearby, unaware that it already contained a Pokémon. Pikachu, are you okay? Yiyu asked worriedly, looking at the frail Pikachu at his feet. Pikachu shook his head weakly. Yiyu picked Pikachu up and touched its forehead. His brow furrowed in frustration, and he chided, You said you were fine. But your forehead is burning. He pulled out a fever-reducing spray from his storage ring and sprayed Pikachu with it. He then took a blanket from the storage room and spread it on the ground for Pikachu to rest. Oh, by the way, where's the Dragonite? Did it get scattered? Xiaoxu grew anxious when she saw no sign of the Dragonite anywhere. I think it's blended in with the surroundings again. Maybe it'll come out if you call it, Yu said teasingly to Xiaoxu as he settled Pikachu. Hide. As soon as he finished speaking, the Dragonite appeared from nowhere and pounced on Xiaoxu's slender, white legs. Ah, Xiaoxu was startled. But once she saw it was Dragonite, she happily scooped it up. Dragonite, so you're okay? You scared me to death. Dragonite's eyes narrowed into crescents, clearly enjoying Xiaoxu's embrace, coquettishly cuddling in her arms. Xiaoxu, I think this Dragonite really likes you. Why don't you capture it? Yushin, who was watching from the side, suggested. Is that okay? Xiaoxu hesitated. No problem. Here's a Pokeball. Yu pulled a Pokeball from his waist and handed it to Xiaoxu. Here. Dragonite, would you like to travel with me? Xiaoxu asked, somewhat uncertainly but also with anticipation. Dragonite tilted its head, met Xiaoxu's beautiful eyes, and then nodded with a smile. Okay, go ahead, Pokeball. Xiaoxu set Dragonite down and tossed the Pokeball towards it. But the next moment, a scene stunned Yu and Xiaozu. The Pokeball hit the Dragonite, but instead of being enveloped in red light, it opened, revealing a giant crab waving its claws. It looked much smaller than a typical giant crab. Yu, is this your new Pokemon? You're so careless. You mistook it for an empty Pokeball, Xiaozu complained. This. I don't know. Yu was also a little dumbfounded. But it looks a little malnourished. Why is it so small? Xiaozu, a breeder, immediately noticed the giant crab's difference. Ahem, wait a minute, let me ask. Yu coughed lightly, then walked over to the giant crab, squatted down, and pointed at himself. Hey, little one, do you recognize me? Big Claw. The giant crab waved its claws, foaming at the mouth, clearly delighted to see Yu. But it still remembered that Yu had played with it just now. Yu looked at it with a confused face, and touched his nose with his hand. Although I don't know what you are talking about. I don't know when you were captured. But since you have been captured by me, let's work hard together from now on. After that, Yu stretched out his right hand and pretended to shake hands with a giant crab. Yu is not the kind of person who can easily release Pokemon. Even if the Pokemon is not captured according to his wishes, he will become partners with him. Big Claw. The two eyes on the top of the giant crab's head were curved into crescents. Although it was still spitting white foam from its mouth, it still stretched out its claws and clamped Yu's fingers. Ouch! It hurts. Chapter 103, Giant Crab vs. Lobster Soldier. Congratulations, Yu. Xiaozu congratulated him. Thank you. Here, Xiaozu, this Pokeball is for you. Don't worry, it's definitely unused. Yu took out another Pokemon and handed it to Xiaozu. Xiaozu then successfully captured a Dragonite. After each capturing their own Pokemon, Yu and Xiaozu planned to wait until Pikachu's fever subsided before looking for a way to leave. What Yu and his companions didn't know was that in the waters not far away, several pairs of ferocious eyes appeared, gazing aggressively at Yu and his companions on the beach. And those eyes kept approaching the beach. Yu, how's Pikachu doing now? Xiaozu approached, holding a blue tangerine she had picked from somewhere. Taking the blue tangerine fruit from Xiaoxu and taking a bite, Yu chewed and said, the fever's gone down a bit, that's good. I wonder how Serena and Air are doing. They must be very worried about us being washed down the waterfall. Yet, once Pikachu gets better, we'll find a way to get out of here. Well, Xiaoxu, what's wrong with you? Seeing Xiaoxu's sudden dazed expression, Yu was puzzled and followed her gaze. He saw a pair of eyes on the water surface quickly approaching them. As the river became shallower, the true appearance of those eyes was revealed one by one. Oh no, it's a lobster. Yu's face changed, and his eyes were filled with solemnity. Ironclaw. Xiaoxu took Yu's Pokemon Pokédex and heard an electronic voice introduce it. Ironclaw, a rogue Pokemon. It has a bad temper and is prone to picking fights. That's why it's said that no other Pokemon can live where the Ironclaw lives. After Xiaoxu finished her introduction, Yu uttered 4 words. They come with ill intentions, so what? Xiaoxu instinctively shrank back behind Yu. They come with ill intentions, so we must fight. It was clear that the iron claws were targeting Yu and Xiaoxu. Despite saying this, Yu's face still grimaced. Why not choose a better time, when Pikachu has a fever and he hasn't brought any of his other Pokemon with him? Oh, no, there's also a crab that was somehow captured by accident. Because Yu's Pokemon are now in Serena and Air's possessions, the crab was prevented from being teleported to Professor Oak's laboratory. Then I'll help too, Xiaoxu said timidly, sending out her only Pokemon. Dragonoid, we gotta keep fighting. As for Xiaoxu's Vulpix, having left it behind, it was currently being held by its beloved son, who was still searching for them. Crawler, let's see what you're made of. Yu then released Crab. Ironclaws. The crab's eyes glared fiercely. They hadn't fought another Pokemon in ages, and now someone had fallen into their trap. How could they not be delighted? Huh? Yu took a deep breath, knowing this battle was inevitable, and decided to strike first. Crawler, use Bubble Beam. The claws opened, and streams of bubbles, like submachine guns, continuously blasted at the group of crabs' front. Ironclaws. The crab finally couldn't help but yell in anger. Each one raised their thick claws, and streams of water gushed out. Facing the crab's bubble beams, their attacks were like machine guns, suppressing the crab's attacks. Hidden Dragon, use Scare to support the crab, Xiaoxu ordered at the right moment. However, the Ironclaw lobsters remained undeterred by the Hidden Dragon's fright, retaliating with a series of glares. The Hidden Dragon, frightened by the glare, immediately retreated to Xiaoxu's side, clinging tightly to her thigh. Hidden Dragon, what's wrong with you? Don't be afraid. Use your tongue. We can't hold you back, Xiaoxu persuaded the frightened Hidden Dragon, hoping to get it to fight again and help Yu and the crab. Crab, use Crab Punch to charge, Yu commanded, regardless of Xiaoxu's situation. The crab claws on both sides glowed white, like boxing gloves, and they swung their claws continuously to resist the water cannon's attack, advancing. However, a tiger is no match for a pack of wolves, let alone a malnourished crab. The overwhelming intensity of the water cannon forced the crab to halt its charge. A figure rushed out of the swarm of lobsters, its claws glowing white with power as it hammered down fiercely at the giant crab. Hold on, a green energy shield appeared, blocking the crab punch. At this critical moment, the giant crab finally used its ultimate move, using 100% defense for the first time. After seeing the figure clearly, Yu was immediately annoyed. It was really like a tiger trapped in a flock of sheep being bullied by dogs. A large group of lobsters surrounded us and attacked us, but why are you, a little lobster soldier, interfering? Oh. There's a little guy here too. Then I'll defeat you first. The giant crab used the crab punch to fight back against a lobster soldier. Seeing that his skill was blocked, the lobster soldier also became angry, and his claws were like a pair of hammers, swinging and smashing. For a moment, the air was ablaze with crab and prawn claws, the clash so intense it felt like a tug of war. You hammer my head, I smash your body. Both Pokemon fought with fervor, and even though they were panting, neither was willing to concede defeat. This was a contest of strength and endurance. Perhaps so engrossed in the fight, the big claw crab ignored Yu's commands. Even the swarm of iron claw lobsters paused their attacks, silently watching the two Pokemon clash. Yu wasn't the least bit angry at the big claw crab's disobedience, he simply watched quietly, believing it was a good opportunity for the big claw crab to hone its combat skills. Time flew by, the scorching sun blazing down the beach. The battle between the big claw crab and the lobster minions was drawing to a close, accompanied by the soft crack of crab claws clashing against prawn claws. Both Pokemon, exhausted, had lost their fighting ability, resulting in a draw. Come back, big claw crab, to Yu. The big claw crab's performance was neither good nor bad. Seeing this result, the lobsters seemed very dissatisfied, roaring continuously, and without paying any attention to the lobster soldiers who had lost their fighting ability, they subconsciously prepared to launch a wave of attacks. But at this moment, an unexpected event occurred. Chapter 104 Suicune. That's right, it suddenly appeared unexpectedly. An unexpected Pokemon appeared. It didn't have the legendary golden armor or the colorful clouds beneath its feet, but rather a graceful, steady pace, with white ribbons dancing around it like the wind. Water in a few leaps, it arrived before Yu, Xiaozu, and the swarm of iron-clawed lobsters. Only then did everyone see the Pokémon's true form. Oh, what is this Pokémon? It's so beautiful. Even someone as mature as Xiaozu couldn't help but clasp her fists to her chest, her eyes sparkling. This Pokémon was, after all, a slender, blue, quadrupedal mammal with white, diamond-shaped spots on its torso. Its face and underside were white, and it had a thick, purple beard, symbolizing the aurora borealis. Its tail flowed forward like a ribbon. Its snout protruded forward, white. A large, hexagonal, sky-blue crest on its forehead, symbolizing the horns of a Qilin. It had red eyes, a prominent jaw, and small, white padded paws. Yiyu's heart swelled with excitement at the sight of this familiar figure, though it was smaller than the one he remembered. Suicune, the Aurora Pokémon. It travels the world cleaning sewage and can ride the north wind, the Pokémon Encyclopedia's Xiaozu held blared with an electronic introduction. Perhaps it was the inherent aura of the legendary beast, but the newly appeared Suicune's presence silenced the previously aggressive swarm of lobsters. Neither advancing nor retreating was possible. Ignoring the lobsters, Suicune lunged directly at Yiyu, extending his tiny pink tongue and licking his cheek. His head nudged affectionately against Yiyu's chest. It's just being coquettish with you. Xiaozu, stunned by the scene before her, was speechless. As someone from a region adjacent to Chengdu, Xiaozu had naturally heard stories of the three sacred beasts under the throne of the Ho-Oh. Suicune was one of them, a true legendary beast. Even though he was just born, he was still a mythical beast. But at this moment, Suicune had lost all his divine dignity and was now as docile as a meow, even flirting with Yiyu. Yes, it's Suicune, one of the three sacred beasts. Yiyu's words only confirmed Xiaozu's inner turmoil. Yiyu caressed the little Suicune, his tone filled with joy. Haha, your little one is finally out. I've been waiting for so long. Haha, remember, this little Suicune was entrusted to him by his master, his old friend Suicune, when he left Xianshan. But for some unknown reason, Suicune, who should have hatched long ago, hadn't made any progress in the past 6 years. What you didn't know was that Suicune had encountered a minor problem when he entrusted him with the egg. Due to a battle at that time, when Suicune laid the Pokemon egg, even after the Pokeball reached hatching conditions, it still needed a large amount of water elemental energy or external stimulation to hatch successfully. The stone Buzzbit had previously received from Suicune, and the stone Kurono had given him, were Suicune's Mega Stone and Mega Key. Perhaps this was fate. Yiyu placed Suicune's Mega Stone and Mega Key in the storage ring containing the Suicune egg. The immense energy contained in the Mega Stone and Mega Stone stimulated the Pokemon egg, absorbing sufficient energy. Later, when Yiyu's waterfall washed away Suicune successfully hatched. Because the storage ring couldn't hold living things, Suicune was immediately expelled by the special restriction within. Although Suicune had been trapped in the egg for years and had never seen Yiyu, his years of care had imprinted his presence on it. Suicune, expelled from the storage ring, was already in the water upon reappearing. As a water-based mythical creature, it had a natural affinity for water and was about to engage in a good fight. On the surface of the water nearby, Yiyu, Xiaozu, and 2 other tiny creatures lay with their eyes tightly closed. He quickly leaped out of the water and scooped them up onto his back, one by one. Perhaps Suicune's constant work purifying sewage meant they were all born with the ability to walk on water. Suicune, carrying the 2 Pokemon on his back, stumbled at first, but soon grew accustomed to the feeling, traversing the water like flat ground, eventually breaking into a run, his cries of excitement punctuated by his presence. Even a mythical creature has limited stamina, let alone a newborn. After this exhilarating journey, Suicune finally grew tired and found an uninhabited island, where he set Yiyu and Xiaozu down. Then, seemingly feeling hungry, he leaped out to find some food and share some with the still unconscious Yiyu. Water, haha, I've been waiting for this day to fight alongside you, little one. Let's make this our starting point today. Yiyu pointed at the swarm of lobsters across from him, his eyes gleaming with excitement and a sense of optimism. Xiaozu, standing nearby, watched in awe. Even the invisible dragon, influenced by the atmosphere, emerged from behind Xiaozu. Come on, lobsters, we're not afraid of you. Iron Claws intimidated by the divine beast's might, the lobsters lost their previous ferocity and showed some signs of retreat. However, Yiyu's words were not provocative, and they were immediately torn between a mixture of fear and anger. Finally, after a struggle, their anger triumphed over their fear. Iron claws then, with a roar from a lobster that seemed like its leader, the lobsters charged, brandishing their claws like hammers. Close combat? I'd love to see that, Suicune. Show me your strength. However, the scene that followed gave you a new understanding of the mythical beast. Facing the swarm of lobsters, Suicune bravely charged forward, his teeth emitting a chill that gave people goosebumps. The power was also immense. As Suicune's jaws fell, some of the lobsters bitten by the fangs emitted wisps of cold air that froze into ice. That's Ice Fang. Amazing, my Suicune. Yu excitedly licked the corners of his chapped lips, his eyes growing more and more excited. A mythical beast, indeed, could possess such a high-level skill like Ice Fang. It was clearly a hereditary ability. Chapter 105 Rogue Pokémon. Iron Claw's Suicune, with its agile form, launched a relentless barrage of harassing attacks, driving the Iron Claws somewhat frantic. Instead of engaging in close combat with Suicune, Yu repeatedly unleashed his foam beam, attempting to distance himself from him. Suicune, get out of the way. Use your next move. Unsure of Suicune's abilities, Yu quickly ordered him to evade, then let him unleash his full power. Water with his nimble, snake-like movements, Suicune deftly dodged wave after wave of attacks, while a stream of chilling energy gathered within its mouth. Xiaoxu looked incredulous. I remember this is, the freeze beam. Yes, it's the freeze beam, a renowned ice skill. I'm starting to doubt whether this little creature was even newly hatched. It's truly formidable, Yu remarked, his voice equally incredulous. Then someone shook their head with regret, sighing, it's a shame the power is so weak, perhaps because they were newly hatched and still in their juvenile state. The freeze ray, though a high-level ice-type skill, was somewhat outmatched by the bubble ray, especially multiple ones at that. It was either countered by the excitement ray or blocked. Sometimes, with luck, it managed to break through the lobster's defenses and hit them, leaving only a few ice shards on their scales. Suicune, on the other hand, had his fur somewhat disheveled after enduring several bubble rays, and his steps were no longer as smooth and graceful as before, as he dodged awkwardly. Yu couldn't help but frown, his heart sinking. He turned to look at Pikachu, who was still lying on the ground with his eyes closed and his cheeks flushed. No, it's only just hatched. It's too low a level. Even as a legendary beast with excellent talent, it can't make up for the level difference. If Pikachu could wake up, with its stat advantages and level, it should be able to fight them, but a good cook can't cook without rice. Although Yu possessed impressive medical skills, he didn't have the herbs he needed. And while his medical skills were impressive, 2/3 were used on humans, and only 1/3 on Pokémon. On the field, Suicune, despite being hit several times by the bubble beam, began to use his agility to fight the swarm of lobsters. As the saying goes, a tiger can't stand up to a pack of wolves. Even if Suicune didn't confront the lobsters head-on and resorted to harassment tactics, the lobsters had learned their lesson this time. Iron Claws, with their leader's roar, the other lobsters surged forward, attacking in two waves. One wave consisted of foam beams, harassing and distracting Suicune, while the other, a terrifying attack consisting entirely of crab punches, was unstoppable. Dragonoid, you go up and help too. Facing wave after wave of attacks like the ocean, Suicune was powerless to fight back. Xiaoxu quickly pulled the Dragonoid from behind her legs and pointed at the battle area. Dragonoid, perhaps influenced by Suicune's imposing appearance just now, the Dragonoid didn't shy away this time. Excellent, Dragonoid has this aura. You split. Xiaoxu, seeing a promising opportunity, quickly gave the command. Each of the lobster's claws glowed white as it lashed out at a lobster being dragged by Suicune. Its sharp claws struck the lobster's hard scales, creating a sharp, grinding sound. The lobster stumbled to the side from the force of the chopping blow. Suicune, seizing the opportunity to distance himself from the other lobsters, charged forward and bit it with his ice fang. Just then, another lobster appeared behind Suicune, raising its massive claws as if to strike down. Seeing this, Yu rushed to help Suicune block the blow, but someone was faster. The lobster had appeared behind Suicune and used another chopping blow to deflect the claws. Wow! Very impressive. The lobster, Yu gave a thumbs up. That's the aura of the Dragonite. Use the lick. Xiaoxu was starting to get a bit more comfortable with the technique, her pretty face brimming with confidence. Iron Claws Yu was happy, but the Iron Claw lobsters weren't. Not only had they just been frightened by the legendary beast, but now a tiny creature had gotten involved. Wasn't that a clear sign of disdain for their scoundrel clan and a slap in the face of the Iron Claw lobsters? The scene that followed completely stunned Yu and Xiaoxu, their eyes nearly popping out of their heads. Iron Claws with a series of furious roars, the Iron Claw lobsters then fully demonstrated what a Pokemon rogue looks like. Their powerful claws finally stopped resembling hammers and became more like vices. Abandoning the competition of skills and strength, the Iron Claw lobsters acted like human thugs fighting. Their sturdy bodies lunged at Suicune and the Dragonite, their powerful claws clamping down on their limbs. The remaining lobsters, however, were rubbing their hands in anticipation, their eyes fixed on them with undisguised amusement. This is a foul." Xiaoxu, after a long pause, finally managed to utter these words. Then, Xiaoxu, a complete novice in combat, protested to the lobsters, "Hey! Lobsters, you're fouling." The lobsters ignored her, continuing their so-called fouling behavior. "Oh, this must be the saying, a scholar can't explain himself when he meets a soldier." Yu was devastated. He had never expected to encounter such a scoundrel among Pokemon. In his mind, Pokemon battles, even 1 against 3, were fair and square, not like this, pulling hair, poking eyes. Pikachu, perhaps even heaven would have seen enough. At that moment, the unconscious Pikachu suddenly opened his eyes, leaped to his feet, and without hesitation, unleashed a 100,000-volt blast of rage at the chaotic scene. The 100,000-volt blast, like the fury of thunder, seemed to say to everyone, "Fight if you want, but you dare disturb my sleep? Then taste my wrath." The fury of thunder was more like a demonic roar, and almost all the Pokemon present were so frightened that they dared not move. They watched helplessly as the 100,000-volt blast drew ever closer. Chapter 106, Pikachu's Power. Faced with the ultimate electric attack, 100,000 volts, some of the more astute lobsters immediately used guard. Zizzy lightning flashed, the flickering arc of electricity like a small snake. 100,000 volts struck the lobsters with impeccable accuracy, deftly avoiding Suicune and Dragonite. The powerful damage inflicted countless lobsters, leaving only a few lucky enough to use guard alive. Watching their companions fall to the ground, unable to fight, the lobsters grew terrified, their hearts trembling with fear. With the lobsters restraining Suicune incapacitated, Suicune naturally broke free and returned to Yu and the others with Dragonite. Suicune looked at Pikachu with an inexplicable expression, gratitude and admiration, yet also a hint of resentment. This also proved Pikachu's position as the leader among them. Before this, Suicune, seeing Pikachu's feverish, eyes closed, and frail appearance, naturally looked down upon him as a legendary beast. Even if Pikachu is stronger than Suicune, that was only because it had hatched earlier. Therefore, Suicune internally resisted Pikachu's leadership. But the scene just now had convinced Suicune to accept Pikachu's leadership, albeit somewhat reluctantly. "Pikachu!" Pikachu cried out again, seeing the lobsters still lingering around, his cheeks pulsing with electricity. The lobsters, still capable of fighting, shuddered at the cry. Fear washed over them, and they rushed forward, their powerful claws gripping each other before fleeing in panic. Some lobsters were dragged along the beach unscathed, while others, less fortunate, slammed into hidden pebbles. They didn't care if their actions would affect their injured companions, as if they would take their fellows with them if they were a step slower. "Wow! Pikachu, you're amazing." Seeing the swarm of lobsters fleeing intimidated by Pikachu's might, Xiaoxu excitedly scooped it up. She ignored the arcs of electricity pulsing in Pikachu's electric sacs and pressed her fair cheek against it, nuzzling it intimately. "Oh, Xiaoxu, are you okay?" Seeing Xiaoxu's light green hair standing up in front of him, Yu looked like he wanted to laugh but couldn't. He forced a smile, forcing an awkward yet rude one. "Yu, what's wrong with you? Your smile is so stiff." Xiaoxu finally realized something, her pretty face tense, and said dryly. Yu pulled a small mirror from his storage ring and placed it in front of Xiaoxu. "Ah, my hair." Xiaoxu's heart sank as she gazed at her spiky locks. As the saying goes, a girl's hair is her lifeblood. Despite her intellectual and gentle nature, tears welled up in her beautiful eyes. Yu, terrified that the Bio Pikachu would be thrown out, hurried over to take it from Xiaoxu's hand. After Pikachu's death, Yu habitually touched Pikachu's forehead, his heart clenching. Pikachu's fever hadn't subsided. He'd been holding on until now, only the first 100,000 volts had its usual strength, but after that, it was gone. Suppressing the discomfort, Pikachu held himself up as best he could, deliberately creating arcs of electricity near his cheeks, hoping to scare off the swarm of lobsters. As expected, the swarm of lobsters, terrified by its 100,000 volt charge, retreated. To avoid being noticed, Pikachu held his eyelids open, stiffened his body, and feigned a fierce, angry expression as he watched them gradually sink into the sea. After a labored glance around the beach, finding no lobsters, he forced a reassuring smile. Then, the world began to spin, and he felt as if he were in a cloud, about to fall to the side. Xiaoxu excitedly ran over and scooped him up. Her sudden movement caused Pikachu to lose his balance, and the arcs of electricity on his cheeks throbbed. Although the fever in the previous 100,000 volt charge had reduced the power of Pikachu's current, it was still enough to cause Xiaoxu to experience static electricity, causing her to explode. Noticing Pikachu's fever hadn't subsided, Yu ignored Xiaoxu, who looked rather grim, and instead focused on providing basic care for Pikachu. Dragonite returned to Xiaoxu, holding a small wooden comb, apparently intending to help her with her hair. Meanwhile, Suicune, unoccupied, glanced at the others busy at their own pace, yawned, and, somewhat bored, lay down on the beach, sunbathing. For a moment, the only sounds on this uninhabited island, besides the crashing of waves, were the occasional birds and Pokémon flying across the horizon, along with the music of nature. The golden crow sets in the west, the jade rabbit rises in the east. The deserted island seemed quite desolate in the darkness of night, and deep in the forest, a few unidentified Pokémon's cries could be heard, a chilling feeling. The seaside was chilly late at night, the occasional breeze causing Xiaoxu to curl up closer to the single source of light. The soft, gentle glow of the campfire cast a strikingly beautiful light on her pretty face. After helping Pikachu change the ice bandage once again, Yu walked over to Xiaoxu and sat down. He pulled a white robe from his stored ring and draped it over her. He then took some food from his own ring and shared it with Xiaoxu. "Thank you," Xiaoxu muttered as she took the food. Perhaps from the cold or the firelight, her face flushed slightly. "Haha, you're so polite. We've been through this together." Yu waved his hand, letting out a hearty laugh. He then portioned out another portion of his food and placed it in front of Suicune. "Besides, you've always made delicious food for me, and I haven't even thanked you yet," Yu said, taking a bite of the food in his hand. Xiaoxu ate in small bites. Even though she was hungry, she wasn't as rough as Yu and ate like a lady. After a moment's silence, Xiaoxu put down her food and stared at the flickering flames. She said with a hint of melancholy, "Yu, we won't stay here forever, will we?" No. Yu swallowed the last of his food before continuing, "We have to have faith in them. They'll definitely find us. And if that doesn't work, we can just use local materials to chop wood. We can only hope they can find us." Yuyu's ears twitched, and the corners of his mouth suddenly curled up. "That's right. Speak of the devil and he'll appear." Chapter 107 Joy Masako. Suicune suddenly stood up, his eyes fixed sharply ahead. What do you mean?" Xiaoxu looked at Yu, who had already stood up, somewhat puzzled. Yu didn't answer, but instead raised her index finger to her lips, silencing her. "Really? You're just keeping me in suspense." Xiaoxu tightened her robe, revealing a rare bit of her little girl's demeanor, and rolled her eyes. Not far from the uninhabited island where Yu and Xiaoxu were, a ship, its lights on, stood out against the silent night. Inside the ship's cockpit stood several pretty figures, Air and Serena, along with a figure Yu knew very well, Joey Masako, Yuyu's adopted sister from Kalos. But now, their expressions seemed a little worried. "Sister Masako, are Yu and Xiaoxu really on that uninhabited island you mentioned?" Because of Yu, Air and Serena had called her sister instead of Miss, a request Joy Masako herself had made. Serena looked at Joy Ako, who was diligently steering the boat, her heart pounding, and spoke nervously. "It's okay. According to the information Juncha provided earlier, someone spotted a Pokémon we've never seen before, with several human figures on its back, darting across the water. They're heading exactly towards our destination, the nameless island." Joyako stared intently at the dark water ahead, skillfully manipulating the boat's equipment as she spoke slowly. "But it's a good thing we met Sister Masako, otherwise we'd be in a lot more trouble." Air, gazing at the nightscape, a relieved smile on her face. "No, I just happen to have something you could help me with." Serena's words reassured Joy, Echo and Air, who couldn't help but recall the scene back then. After Yu and Xiaoxu were swept away by the waterfall, Air and Serena had taken their Pokémon and searched along the riverbank. They'd found a nearby Pokémon Center, planning to stay overnight and resume their search tomorrow. After arriving at the Pokémon Center, Air and Serena first handed the Pokémon, Yu and Xiaozu's, to Miss Joy for care. Then, after collecting their room keys, they prepared to return to their rooms to rest. Serena hesitated for a moment, as if a thought struck her. Finally, she stopped and turned back to the front desk. Miss Joy, our companion was swept away by the waterfall. I wonder if you can help us. Miss Joy looked at Serena, whose eyes were about to fill with tears. She was taken aback for a moment, but then offered an apologetic smile. Sorry. I may not be able to help you with this. But you can go see Miss Junsha. Maybe she can help. So, Serena's eyes were red. Although she had expected this, she still felt a little disappointed. There will be a way. We must have faith in them, Air said, walking over to Serena and patting her back in comfort. Excuse me, are the people you just mentioned swept away by the waterfall? Two people, a man and a woman. The sudden voice startled the two women, still somewhat grief-stricken, and they looked towards the source. They saw Miss Joy, also dressed in a nurse's uniform, emerging from a darkened medical room. Misako, why are you out? Miss Joy asked, somewhat surprised. I'm done with everything back there. I just came out. The newcomer playfully stuck out her tongue, then turned to Serena and the other two. I think I can help with that favor you were talking about. These two Miss Joys. Serena was filled with shock. Her fingers trembling as she moved between the two Miss Joys. It was clear she had never seen two or more Miss Joys at once. Don't be so surprised. This is my cousin, Miss Joy from the Pokémon Center introduced. By the way, what was the name of your companion who was swept away by the waterfall? Misako Joy inquired curiously. Well, our two companions, one is called Yu and the other is called Xiaozu. Air thought that Miss Joy would not harm them, so she did not hide anything. Well, who are you talking about, Yu? Hearing Yu's name, and thinking of what Serena and the others said before that Yu was washed away by the waterfall, Joy Yezi shuddered inexplicably. Yes, that's right, it's Yu. Serena was full of doubts, and she didn't understand why Miss Joy suddenly became so excited after hearing Yu's name. The Yu you are talking about is dressed in ancient Chinese costume, and there is a Pikachu following him. Joy Yezi was a little uncertain. In her opinion, Yu was such a powerful person, but he was actually washed away by the waterfall. Excuse me, Miss Joy, do you know our companion Yu? Air nodded slightly and asked the doubt in her heart. Misako Joy wrinkled her nose cutely. I'm your friend Yu's adopted sister. Without waiting for the stunned two women to react, she quickly stepped forward, pulling each one by the hand, and headed towards the Pokémon entrance. Hey, Misako, what are you doing? Miss Joy, the receptionist, stared at the scene in amazement. What else could I do? I'm looking for my adopted brother, of course. Miss Joy opened her mouth, wanting to say something, but knowing her cousin's personality, she remained silent. After Misako Joy and the others had disappeared through the gate, Miss Joy slapped her forehead, a little annoyed. Oh no. Air and the others' Pokémon are still here. But with Misako here, it should be okay. Then Miss Joy put the matter aside and returned to her work, on the boat. Through the boat's lighting, Serena and the others could clearly see the glow of a fire in the darkness not far away. Great. Yu and the others are there after all. Serena's heart was relieved, and she smiled brightly. Hey. Serena, why are you so calm about this? Yu and Xiaozu are right there, Air asked. Serena could see that Air seemed relaxed. You too, aren't you? Air smiled without saying anything. I can only say it's that sixth sense that's unique to us girls. And mine is incredibly accurate, Serena chuckled. This. Ouch, Air was about to say something, but the sudden sway of the boat interrupted her. Hold on to whatever's nearby. We might be in trouble. Joy Misako also called over. Please bookmark, recommend, comment, give a 5-star rating, anything. Chapter 108, The Iron Claw Lobster Swarm appears again. Serena groaned, looking at Joy Misako, who was concentrating on steering. Sister Misako, what happened? It's not entirely clear yet, but one thing is certain, we've been attacked, Joy Misako replied, skillfully steering the boat, relying on her instincts to avoid harm in the shadows. Alice. We left in such a hurry that we left all our Pokémon at the Pokémon Center. If they were with us, we'd go help investigate, Air sighed. Oh, Pokémon? I do have them, Joy Misako pondered for a moment, steering with one hand while pulling out several Pokéballs from her pocket with the other. Come out, everyone. With 3 flashes of red light, 3 different Pokémon, all pink, appeared before Serena and Koyuki's eyes, each wearing a nurse's cap. What are these? They're all my good assistants and companions. Who are these Pokémon? Serena pulled out her Pokédex. An electronic voice rang out, almost all, a hearing Pokémon. Touching a Pokémon with its large ears allows it to sense their health and mood. Slippery, a balloon Pokémon. Its body is elastic, and when it's angered, it inhales air to expand. Chicken Pocket, an egg Pokémon. It's said to bring happiness. A gentle Pokémon who shares its eggs with those who are injured. Aren't these all the medical Pokémon used by Miss Joy and the others? The more knowledgeable Air exclaimed at the sight of the 3 pink Pokémon. Huh? Aren't all the Pokémon Miss Joy uses slippery? Serena, a novice trainer who hadn't traveled far, wondered. Well, each of our region's Miss Joys has a different medical Pokémon. And these 3 are the most common, Joy Misako explained. So, that makes sense. It's the same with Miss Junsa and the others. Serena's little head clicked. At that moment, the boat lurched again. Misako Joy hurriedly steered, her eyes devoid of their usual gentleness and understanding. She called out, well, hold on tight, everyone. Whoosh, whoosh, as the boat suddenly accelerated, Serena and Air pitched forward, either clinging to surrounding objects or falling flat on their backs. Be careful, Serena, who was simply watching the view from the window, cried out in alarm as streams of bubbles flew toward them. Hearing Serena's warning, Misako Joy silently thought something was amiss and quickly accelerated, narrowly avoiding the incoming attack. The attackers surfaced, revealing their true form, a swarm of lobsters. Jiko, Chanky, and Almost. Get ready for battle, Misako Joy took off her nurse's cap. Far from feeling fearful, her face lit up with excitement at the prospect of fighting. Misako Joy looked like a completely different person, a battle-crazed warrior. Serena and Air Kiki were stunned, wondering if this was still the gentle and sweet Miss Joy. Like their master, the 3 Pokémon, after removing their nurse caps, shed their helpful appearances. Each one was filled with a fierce fighting spirit, their eyes blazing with anticipation. Iron Claws. Suddenly, several lobsters leaped onto the deck, their surroundings dotted with human heads. Iron Claws, the lobsters, looking at the group of humans before them, were filled with anger and defiance. That morning, a large group of them had gathered, imposing and ready to bully the newcomers, only to be beaten back into the water, their bodies trembling in fear. Thinking of the demonic force, the lobsters still shuddered, their bodies trembling uncontrollably. Therefore, the swarm of lobsters, feeling deeply humiliated, immediately gathered on the ground when they saw a small boat still there, intending to get back at the group. However, if Ryu knew what they were thinking, he would definitely burst into laughter and then pat his Pikachu. That's right, the swarm of lobsters in front of Joy Misako and the others were the same group that had suffered a defeat at Ryu's hands that morning. Iron Claws. With a loud cry from the leading lobster, the horn of war was immediately sounded. Streams of foamy light shot out from their claws, some hitting the deck, and some at Serena and the others. For a moment, the scene was a bit chaotic. HMPH. You're such a bunch of bad boys, Joy Misako's pretty face sulked as she ordered, Chikenda, use light wall, Almost all, use charming voice, and Jigglypuff, use electromagnetic wave. As the orders came one after another, Jigglypuff was the first to use light wall to mitigate the damage. Songs, beautiful to the ears but extremely destructive to Pokémon, emanated from Almost Doll's mouth. Following suit, Jigglypuff's electromagnetic wave slowed down the paralyzed Pokémon's movements. Watching the 3 Pokémon work so well together, Serena and Air were stunned. This, Sister Misako is on par with champion Miss Karen, right? I don't know, but they're both amazing. Serena's eyes flickered. Jigglypuff, use Lightning Palm. Almost all and Chankapuff, provide cover. Joy Misako issued the orders methodically. Iron Claws. A group of Iron Claw lobsters roared, their claws all glowed white, and they launched a suicide squad charge. By the same token, a good tiger cannot stand up to a pack of wolves. Although Jigglypuff performed extremely bravely, 2 fists cannot beat 4 hands. In a short while, Jigglypuff had several more scars on his body. Not good, you guys go up and support quickly. Almost all uses Healing Wave, then Freeze Beam, and Chansey uses Continuous Slap. First, a soft light shone on the 3 Pokémon, causing the wounds on their bodies to gradually dissipate. At the same time, another Freeze Beam appeared in front of the Iron Claw lobsters, or froze their legs to restrict their movements. Some were lucky enough to break through, but were slapped out by Chansey soon after. Iron Claws. If you are listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means it was downloaded and re-uploaded without effort. We warmly invite you to visit our channel, Fanfic World. There you will find the original version of this story and many other novels of various genres. We look forward to seeing you dive into a world of incredible novels. Chapter 109 Tacit Cooperation. Iron Claws, seeing his minions fall before even a single one of his own had been defeated, the leading lobster erupted in anger. With his roar, the lobsters, previously frantically attacking, suddenly paused. Had Yu witnessed this, he would have exclaimed in horror, "Holy crap! Run!" They're using a rogue style. With the leader's words, the rogue style began. Just like the previous fight against Suicune, the human wave tactic was unleashed, like a surging ocean wave, one after another, crashing towards Squidward and the others. However, Joy Masako, a figure almost comparable to Kaluna, issued the following series of commands, clearly demonstrating the difference between Yu and her. Wow! Interesting. They're actually using this kind of tactic. Unlike the 2 women who stood there in stunned silence, Joy Masako observed the scene with fascination, occasionally commenting on it. Facing a swarm of aggressive lobsters, the 3 Pokémon seemed quite comfortable, coordinating well with each other. Whenever one group was trapped, the others would rush to their aid. This swarm of lobsters is almost impossible to defeat, but as time passed, even a strong figure like Joy Ako could not help but frown. She then pulled a pair of earplugs from her pocket and put them on, then handed 2 pairs to Air and Serena, instructing them to put them on as well. Noticing their master already had earplugs on, the 3 Pokémon looked at each other in tacit understanding for a moment. Almost in Chandler each pulled out a pair of earplugs from somewhere and put them on themselves. Glancing around and seeing that they were all wearing earplugs, Joyako gave the order, "Switchbill may begin. Sing, boo-boo." Hearing the singing, the swarm of lobsters paused their charge, their steps growing unsteady, their eyelids drooping. Some with weaker willpower instantly crawled onto the deck and fell into deep sleep. Some, even still submerged in the water, vanished as a stream of bubbles emerged. Watching the slumbering lobsters, Joy decided to press their advantage. "Okay, Kissinger, use Dream Eater." As Kissinger used Dream Eater, Serena could clearly see the lobsters' faces stained with the gray, their once peaceful faces now gleaming with fear. Glancing at the faces of the surrounding lobsters, Joy seemed reluctant. She ordered Kissinger to halt and instructed her 3 Pokémon to return them to their homes. During this time, the lobsters were powerless to fight back. Perhaps they could sense it, but they had no strength to struggle, helplessly feeling the pain of being manipulated at will. Finally, with the combined efforts of the 3 Pokémon, the boat set sail again. "Masako, you looked so handsome just now. Even the Chansey and the others were amazing. Sister Masako, I just adored you so much in that moment." Joy Masako, listening intently to the conversation between the 2 women, chuckled softly. All right. I'm a little embarrassed by what you 2 are saying." Watching Joy Masako diligently steering the boat, a faint smile on her face, Ayer couldn't help but think of Yu's other adopted sister, Jun Shaling. Spotting her looking at her from the corner of her eye, Joy Masako asked with a smile, "Ayer, what's wrong? Is there something strange about me?" No. Ayer blushed like a child caught stealing food, and waved her hands frantically. "Really? I thought there was something dirty on me." Kiao Yayako chuckled, smoothing her hair behind her ear. Sister Masako, you're so beautiful, how could there be anything dirty on you?" Ayer's face flickered with confusion, and she smiled sheepishly before asking curiously, "I was just wondering, who's more powerful, Sister Masako or Yu's godsister?" Yu actually has a godsister. "Isn't his godsister Sister Masako?" Serena exclaimed, a strange look flickering in her eyes. She mentally cried out, "Xiaoguang, if you don't hurry up." Then, because it was only a fleeting moment, Kiao Yayako and Ayer didn't notice. "Yu's other godsister. Oh, you must be talking about Jun Shaling. Compared to her, I'm probably on par with her." Jun Shaling was stunned at first, then frowned and pondered for a moment before giving a relatively pertinent answer. Having two such powerful sisters like you two, it seems Yu is really devastated. Air suddenly burst out laughing. Then Sister Yezi, may I ask why you chose to take Yu as your sworn brother? Serena, who had been listening to their conversation quietly, suddenly asked. Joy Yezi fell silent, her bright black eyes fixed on a small speck of light in the endless darkness ahead. Sorry, I'm a little rude. Sister Yezi, if you don't want to say it, don't say it, because her back was turned. Serena couldn't see Joy Yezi's expression at the moment. Seeing her hesitation, she quickly bowed and apologized. Looking through the windshield of the boat's cockpit, watching Serena's somewhat nervous and flustered face, Joy Yezi said slowly, because, so, it's fate. As they talked, the tiny fire in the darkness grew bigger and bigger in their eyes, and the boat gradually moved towards the shore. Yu Xiaozu, Serena and Air also arrived on deck. The glow from the bonfire on shore allowed them to clearly see Yu and the others' faces. Great, Xiaozu. It's Serena and Air. On shore, Yu happily pointed to the approaching ship. Yet, Xiaozu, holding a dragonite, stood beside Yu, her calm face flushed slightly with excitement. As for Suicune, Yu had already collected it in a Pokeball. It's worth noting that to make Suicune more comfortable, Yu used a special Pokeball, the Deep Water Ball, that Miss Joy had given him after he arrived in Kalos to help her in White Sand City. Using the Deep Water Ball to capture water Pokemon increases the chances of success. Similarly, water Pokemon can be more comfortable living in it. As for why Yu placed Suicune in the Deep Water Ball, he understood the principle that even if a man is innocent, he is still guilty of possessing a treasure. As a divine beast, it is better to show up less in front of others, even to Air and Serena. This is not because of distrust of the two women, but it is better to be cautious. Chapter 110 Treatment. Xiaoxu, can I ask you a favor? Seeing Yu looking at her seriously, Xiaoxu nodded without hesitation, saying earnestly, of course. We're close friends. I'll definitely help you if I can. Then can you please keep the fact that I own Suicune a secret? That includes Air and Serena. Yuyu's eyes were filled with anticipation as he met Xiaoxu's. I understand. I'll definitely keep it a secret for you. Xiaoxu knew what Yu was worried about, so after a moment of contemplation, she too, with a serious face, replied. But why are you hiding it from Air and Serena? We're traveling together. If you don't tell them now, they'll find out later. We'll see. Now is not the time. Yuyu's eyes flickered as he looked at the boat that had already docked. Hey, Yu. Xiaoxu. As they spoke, Joy Masako and the others disembarked. Serena was even more excited, waving and shouting happily from a distance. Yu, with his exceptional eyesight, had already spotted the three women approaching him. Suddenly, his eyes widened in disbelief. So, you're surprised to see us? When the three women arrived in front of Yu, seeing that he still looked stunned, Joy Masako asked with a smile. No, Sister Masako, why are you here? With Serena and the others again, Yu was honestly shocked. Aren't they? Said Miss Joy and Miss Junsha are always busy? Why do I keep running into them? Are nurses and police officers now high-paying, easy jobs? What are you imagining? Seeing Yu looking at her strangely, Joy Masako gave him a slap on the face, snorting, her hands on her waist. Adhoho, I just didn't expect to see Sister Masako in a place like this. Yu laughed and didn't want to dwell on this topic any longer, so he immediately changed the subject. By the way, Sister Masako, you are a Pokemon nurse? Go and help me check on Pikachu. Yuyu's sudden change caught Masako Joy off guard. Seeing his nervous and anxious look, Masako Joy's heart couldn't help but rise. Pikachu. What's wrong with Pikachu? Pikachu may have caught a cold because of being washed by the waterfall, and is still running a low fever. Although I have done some fever-reducing measures before, I feel that there is no effect. What? Fever? It's been going on for so long. Masako Joy was shocked, and didn't argue with Yu anymore, and immediately sent out his three Pokemon. Almost all uses healing waves to stabilize Pikachu, and Chansey and Jigglypuff assist on the side. I'll go get the equipment on the boat now. Sister Masako, I'll go with you. Yu volunteered to stand up. No need. You stay and watch over the situation here. I'll stay with Sister Joy. Yu was about to say something, but Air spoke first, patting Yuyu's shoulder in comfort. Then let's help too. Watching Joy Masako and Air leave, Serena and Xiaoxu gathered around, ready to help. Alright. While Yu was still discussing with the other girls, the three Pokemon began their work. Circles of healing light spread, causing Pikachu's brow, originally furrowed in discomfort, to soften, though still in pain. Having accompanied Joy Masako for so many years, Chansey and Squidward had already accumulated considerable medical experience. They divided the work in an orderly manner. Chansey quickly fetched a bucket of water, then used the excited ray to freeze it into ice. Jigglypuff took the bucket of ice and smashed it with his hands. Then he took out a handkerchief from a small bag on his back, wrapped up the broken ice, and gently placed it on Pikachu's forehead. Seeing their smooth and flowing operation, Yuyu's eyebrows jumped. This operation was too skillful and too fast. Although they also used physical cooling methods, Yuyu's previous method seemed too rough in comparison. Jigglypuff, how can I help you? Yuyu rubbed his hands, feeling a little embarrassed to ask Jigglypuff. After all, he was rescuing his Pokemon, and it would be very uncomfortable to just stand there and watch like an idiot. Jigglypuff didn't think twice and pushed Yuyu back to the audience seat with a look of disgust, indicating that it was cool here, and asked Yuyu to stay there so as not to interfere with their work. Yuyu was petrified as he was pushed back, not even resisting. Yet, inwardly, he was raging. A master of the medical profession, yet I was rejected like this. Even more pathetic, even to be rejected by a Pokemon. Puff, haha. Serena, naturally, spied this. Seeing Yuyu's humiliation, she couldn't help but burst out laughing. Then, realizing this wasn't a good idea, she covered her mouth with her hands and chuckled. Yuyu, are you okay? Xiaozu asked softly, her voice warm and concerned. Hearing Xiaozu's gentle, heartwarming words, Yuyu emerged from his petrified state. But he still looked hopeless, crouching down with his back to the two women, facing the ocean. I'm withdrawn. I want some quiet time. Huh? What happened? Just then, Joy Masako and Air returned, carrying equipment. Seeing Yuyu's devastated expression, they couldn't help but become curious. It's okay, he just feels a little hot and needs some fresh air. Oh, I see. Joy Masako quickly stopped paying attention to Yuyu and, carrying her equipment, went over to Pikachu to begin a further examination. Time slipped quietly in this tense atmosphere. Yuyu also regained his composure and stood between the women, his eyes fixed on the busy scene. Joy Masako stood up, exhaled deeply, and walked towards Yuyu, her face slightly grim. Yuyu, Pikachu's fever is almost stable, but in the rush of leaving this time, I forgot to restock some urgently needed medication. Fever reducers are one of them. Joy Masako frowned, pinching her brows in distress. What should we do? Sister Masako and I should go back to the Pokemon Center again, Serena said anxiously. No, it's too dangerous to sail at night, Yuyu said before Joy Masako could reply. Well, Yuyu is right. Don't worry, we can still use local materials. Use local materials. Chapter 111 Resurrection Grass. That's right, we can use local materials. We can search this island for resurrection grass. Resurrection grass? Serena and Air were a little confused. Resurrection grass. It's said that if a Pokemon consumes it, no matter how serious its injury is, it will instantly recover as long as it still has a breath. Yuyu was a little surprised. As a half-Pokemon doctor, he certainly knew the effects of resurrection grass. But where can I find this resurrection grass? I heard it's extremely expensive and hard to find on the market. Xiaoxu, as a Pokemon breeder, had heard a little bit about it. You may not know, but resurrection grass not only grows in some special places, but also grows on islands surrounded by water. Joy Masako was obviously more knowledgeable. What are we waiting for? I'm off now. Yuyu couldn't help but rush out to find the resurrection grass. Before he could take 2 steps, Joyako pulled him back. Don't be so impulsive. The island at night is incredibly dangerous. Wild Pokemon can attack you if you're not careful. And I heard from Air and the others that you were swept away by the waterfall, leaving only Pikachu with you. And Serena left in such a hurry that she didn't bring any other Pokemon with her, so that's what you're worried about. Yuyu chuckled, pulling out a Pokemon from his possession and tossing a giant crab upwards. Well, this is my new Pokemon. Isn't it impressive? It's just a giant crab. How can it be so small? How can this obviously malnourished little creature be that powerful? Joyako rolled her eyes. Yet, Yuyu. Can this tiny little creature really be trusted? The two girls were clearly a little skeptical. Hey! Don't underestimate the giant crab's size. It's also very powerful. It can face a group of lobsters without batting an eyelid. Don't you agree, giant crab? Yiyu was quite confident in the giant crab. Big Claw's hearing Yiyu's support, the Big Claw's eyes narrowed into crescents of joy, foaming from its mouth as its claws flapped, making a crackling sound. Joyako hesitated. As she had said, the island in the dark was far too dangerous. Some of the wild Pokémon with their volatile tempers and strong territorial awareness were difficult to deal with. One wrong move could lead to disaster. Holding onto Yiyu's robe, Joyako finally seemed to make a decision. She glanced around at the group who were looking up at her. Joyako said seriously, "How about this? Let's search together. It'll be good for each other. I'll hold Pikachu and take care of it." Joyako made the decision, and soon Yiyu and his group gathered their necessary items and set out to search for the resurrection herb. But would things really go so smoothly? A pair of red and black birds flashed through the darkness, leaving behind a subtle tail. The bright moonlight was obscured by dark clouds, and the uninhabited island, shrouded in darkness, seemed eerie. A cool sea breeze occasionally rustled the leaves, and the cries of wild Pokémon echoed in the darkness. On one side of the island, the light of several flashlights pierced the darkness. At least this resurrection doesn't seem unusual at first glance. Serena compared the appearance of the resurrection grass in the illustrated guide as she shone her flashlights around the dark island. However, her body slowly inched closer to Yiyu. Don't be fooled by appearances. But then again, finding a resurrection grass in this pitch-black night is like looking for a needle in a haystack. Resurrection grass is a rare commodity. With so few in number, it's understandable that it's hard to find. Yiyu groaned inwardly. The five of them had searched the island for a long time, but hadn't seen even a single herb, let alone resurrection grass. Sorry to trouble everyone. Looking at the four girls who were searching carefully, through the faint light of the flashlight, one could vaguely see the fatigue on their faces. Yiyu's heart was filled with guilt. It was right for Pikachu to come out to look for the resurrection grass when he had a fever, but none of them complained. They just accompanied him silently and searched together. Whoosh! Without giving the chance to hear the reply, a sudden inexplicable strong wind blew up, making it impossible for the group to open their eyes. Joyako hugged Pikachu in her arms tightly, as if she was afraid that she would be blown away. The dense branches and leaves rustled due to the friction between them, and some Pokémon that had fallen asleep were startled and screamed. Fortunately, this gust of wind did not last very long. When Yiyu and the others reopened their eyes, the dark clouds seemed to have dispersed due to the inexplicable wind, and the moon revealed its true form. Soft moonlight poured across the entire island, filtering through the gaps in the dense branches and leaves, illuminating the ground with scattered stars. Wow! Look, everyone! So beautiful! Ayer's face revealed a look of ecstasy as she gazed at the vibrant sea of flowers before her. Following Ayer's direction, the expressions on everyone's faces became extremely varied. This, Serena's mouth dropped open, unable to form a complete sentence for a long time. It's a paradise on earth. Xiaoxi's eyes lit up. Joy Misako, holding Pikachu, didn't act like the other girls, but her beautiful eyes remained unblinking. Then, the atmosphere was ruined by someone who lacked humor, or at least that's what Joy Misako thought. Well, isn't it just a sea of flowers? What's the big deal? Those few flowers aren't even as pretty as the queen of flowers and the beauty of flowers. Yiyu curled his lips in disdain, unimpressed by the sea of flowers. Ignoring Yiyu's complaints, the other girls immersed themselves in the sea of flowers. Hey, what's that? Yiyu pulled out his Pokémon guide, compared the appearance of the resurrection grass, and then looked at a spot surrounded by the flowers. With even greater surprise than the other girls before, he exclaimed, "I found the resurrection grass." Then, where is it? Where is the resurrection grass? Joy Misako was the first to recover. Upon hearing that Yiyu had found the resurrection grass, she was so excited that she almost threw Pikachu out. If it weren't for Ayer's quick hands and eyes, Pikachu would have surely experienced the feeling of flying freely. Looking closely, they could see a few peculiarly shaped grasses in the sea of flowers ahead, towering above the flowers, standing out from the crowd. It really is the resurrection herb. Then what are we waiting for? Let's hurry over there. Chapter 112 Unknown Figure. After half a day of hard work, Yiyu and his companions, under the guidance of Joyako, finally dug up all the resurrection grass without sacrificing its potency. Is this the resurrection grass? This is the first time I've seen it in real life. Yu surveyed the strange-looking grass in his hand, turning it over in amazement. Alright, be careful not to damage it. I'll help you mix the herbs for Pikachu now. Joyako rolled her eyes at Yu and carefully took the resurrection grass from his hand. Regardless of the dust and dirt on the ground, Joyako sat down and dispatched her 3 assistants once again. Because it was dark and they were afraid they might get separated, Yu and Joyako had already gathered their Pokémon back into their Pokéballs shortly after setting out. With the assistance of the 3 Pokémon, Joyako quickly used the resurrection grass to prepare a small bowl of herbs. Joyako was truly a skilled Pokémon nurse. Thanks to her care and the effects of the herbs, the red mark on Pikachu's nose was fading at a noticeable speed. Thank you so much, Yu said sincerely. Yu, why are you suddenly being so pretentious? I'm your sister, Joyako feigned displeasure and grumbled. Yes, Yu. We're companions, and you've helped us a lot on this journey. Hearing these seemingly ordinary words, Yu's heart was filled with emotion. He hadn't felt that way since that incident. After giving Pikachu the medicine made from the resurrection herb, Pikachu slowly opened his tired eyelids. He was initially puzzled when he saw Joyako, but upon seeing Yu beside him, he leaped out of Joyako's warm embrace with joy and excitedly threw himself at Yu. Haha Pikachu, you're finally awake. Come let me see your fever's gone. Yu caught Pikachu and placed his hand on its forehead. Feeling it was fine, he breathed a sigh of relief. What should we do with these remaining resurrection herbs? Serena pointed to a few remaining resurrection herbs. Everyone gets a share, so of course we split it equally, Yu replied casually. Everyone was stunned by Yu's words. Why do I feel like Yu is calling us bandits? Air covered her mouth and laughed. There are 6 resurrection herbs left. Serena, Air, and Xiaoxia will each get one. Sister Masako, you're a nurse at the Pokémon Center, so you'll definitely use them often. The remaining 2 are yours. Yu distributed them directly. Serena agreed. Thank you. Seeing no one objected, Masako accepted them somewhat embarrassedly. Now that everything's settled, let's hurry back to the ship. It feels eerie here, giving me a creepy feeling. Serena folded her arms, glancing around as she spoke softly. Pikachu. After these few days of traveling, Pikachu and Serena had become quite familiar with each other, and their relationship was quite harmonious. Serena would occasionally make some bow-fallow for Pikachu. Seeing Serena's uneasiness, Pikachu immediately broke free from Yu's embrace and threw herself into Serena's arms. He licked Serena's cheek with his pink tongue, signaling her not to be afraid. He was destined to surpass the legendary beasts and would definitely protect her. Damn it, Pikachu, you ungrateful little bastard. I was also afraid, but why did you run away? Yu rolled his eyes and teased. Did you feel the ground shaking? Air frowned, his face pale. It really is. After Air's reminder, Yu, a master with keen senses, also noticed something was amiss. Could this be an earthquake? Xiaoxia was a bit bewildered. Oh no, the vibrations are getting louder and louder. Boom boom boom. The underground tremors grew louder and louder, the shaking becoming more and more intense. You look, the sky, Serena exclaimed, covering her mouth with her hands, as if she had witnessed something incredible. What's going on again? This island is really weird. Let's hurry up and get the boat out of here, Yu said with a hint of urgency. The sky was already swirling with wind and clouds. The dark clouds that had been dispersing were gathering again, and the moonlight gradually faded. When the last ray of moonlight disappeared, the whole world was shrouded in darkness again. However, what Yu and his companions didn't know was that the river surrounding the uninhabited island began to surge. The waves were like mad Pokémon, constantly crashing against the beach and rocks. It felt as if the island could be submerged at any moment. Hoo-hoo. Hurry. Just a little longer and we'll reach the boat. Yu and his group's footsteps echoed in the darkness, their flashlights acting like beacons, guiding them forward. But this is strange. Pokemon's instincts are supposedly better than humans, but with something like that happening, why haven't any Pokemon taken refuge? Suddenly sensing something was amiss, Yu called a halt, a grimace on his face. Now that you mention it, it seems so. This island has been a bit too quiet, hasn't it? When I checked on the island this morning, I clearly saw Pokemon roaming around. The ground in the distance suddenly collapsed, and a massive shadow rose from the darkness, letting out a roar that resounded through the heavens. Gula, look, what's that black shadow? The sharp-eyed Xiaoxu exclaimed, pointing at the enormous form. Is that a Pokémon? But how big is it? Hey, everyone, look up at the sky. What's that snake-like figure? Ayer's flashlight inadvertently shone upward. Through the darkness, a snake-like figure loomed in the dark clouds, slithering. I don't know, but it feels very powerful. Joy Masako, the strongest Pokémon among the group, stared at the shadows with a solemn expression. These massive figures, not only huge but also imposing, created a deeply oppressive atmosphere. I don't know what it is, but it's definitely a Pokémon. Yu pulled out the Pokémon guide, his voice trembling. Let me see your true form. Chapter 113 Prelude to the Battle of Divine Beasts. Show your true form. It must be said that the Pokédex provided by Professor Oak was truly impressive. Even shrouded in darkness, it didn't hinder the ability to identify and collect Pokémon data. Growlithe, the Earth Pokémon. Possessing the power to vanish rain clouds and evaporate water with intense light and heat, it once appeared as a savior to those devastated by floods. Long depicted in mythology as the Pokémon that created land and expanded the continent, this Pokémon fell into deep slumber after a fateful battle with Kyogre. An electronic voice, scrambling through the Pokédex, introduced the Pokémon. Yu and the other girls were stunned, their mouths gaping in disbelief. This isn't Groudon, a mythical beast, the legendary Pokémon known as the incarnation of the earth? How could it appear here? Everyone was filled with wonder, but there was no time to dwell. To avoid getting separated in the darkness, they held hands and planned to evacuate quickly. Just kidding. From the Pokédex just now, we learned that Groudon and Kyogre are sworn enemies. When the two Pokémon are at peace, they fall into deep sleep. Conversely, when one awakens, a fierce battle ensues. Now that Groudon has awakened, Kyogre's awakening won't be long. Add to that a cloud-shrouded figure overhead, invisible even to the Pokédex, and this is shaping up to be the battle of the century. When gods clash, mortals suffer. It's best for them to stay away to avoid being caught in the aftermath. Groudon, a mighty roar pierced their eardrums. Even so, they dared not listen, running as fast as they could. Ouch! Xiaoxu groaned, and following the flashlight's light, she saw Xiaoxu pressing her ankle in pain. After the intense run, Xiaoxu, already fragile, gritted her teeth and endured the discomfort of the excessive exercise, determined not to drag the others down. Her steps became unsteady, and she accidentally twisted her ankle. After checking on Xiaoxu, Yu immediately crouched down and carried her on his back. Just as Yu and his companions, overwhelmed by their opponent, fled into the darkness, they found themselves in an unknown depth. Due to the depths and high pressure, few water-type Pokémon were willing to linger there. Suddenly, in a deep valley, the water began to churn rapidly, and a pair of red and yellow eyes shifted constantly. On a high hillside, Yu and his group stopped. With the exception of Xiaoxu, all the women were panting. Yu stood guard. As a Grandmaster, he could carry 10 Pokémon, let alone just one, without a blush or a breath. Rayquaza, a commanding voice echoed from the sky above. The moon, previously shrouded by dark clouds, peeked out once more, casting its light upon the Pokémon, casting a silvery, inviolable majesty. Upon seeing the Pokémon's true form, Yu was stunned. He froze for a moment, then his eyes glowed with gold, and his saliva practically streamed to the floor. Asking him if he recognized a Pokémon circling in the sky, wasn't that nonsense? It was the totem symbol of the entire Chinese nation. Wow, it's Rayquaza. The women, still panting slightly, were startled by Yu's excited cry and glared at him with disapproval. Sorry, I was just too excited. It's Rayquaza. Yu apologized hastily, his eyes fixed unblinkingly on the Pokémon circling in the sky. Do you know the Pokémon Yu is holding? Serena, a novice trainer, displayed the spirit of asking questions when she didn't understand something. It's called Rayquaza, Yu said, scrolling through the Pokédex in his hand. That's it, Rayquaza, the flying Pokémon. Rayquaza has lived in Earth's ozone layer for hundreds of millions of years, never descending to the surface. Because it resides so high in the sky, its existence has remained unknown. This Pokémon seems to feed on water and particles in the atmosphere. It's said that when Kyogre and Groudon fight, it descends to the surface. After hearing the Pokédex's introduction, everyone's previous suspicions were confirmed. What kind of luck had they had today? A battle between three legendary beasts. While others would normally be grateful for a single encounter, they were certain to encounter three at once. Of course, Yu wouldn't tell them that he also had a legendary beast, Suicune. And now, instead of feeling lucky, they felt a tinge of fear. Legendary beasts are inherently powerful, and three of them fighting fiercely. Everyone, don't be so pessimistic. Maybe the introduction is fake. Look, it's been so long, and Kyogre hasn't appeared yet. Sensing the women's unease, Yu quickly offered words of comfort, stabilizing their spirits. Kyogre, as Yu finished his words, a divine figure, twice the size of a howler whale, suddenly leaped from the water. Due to the distance, Kyogre's appearance couldn't be clearly seen, but its appearance bore a striking resemblance to the Kunpeng of Chinese legend. Yu, I can only say that Murkrow's mouth isn't as clever as yours, someone suddenly said. Yu scratched his head awkwardly. What could he do? He was also desperate. This was a battle between three legendary beasts. Even the aftermath would make him a meat patty. Kyogre, the ocean Pokémon. In mythology, Kyogre is said to expand the oceans by flooding the land with torrential rain and surging waves. Kyogre is said to be the embodiment of the ocean, and after a desperate battle with Groudon, he fell into deep sleep. The Pokédex automatically introduced. Kyogre, having just emerged from the water, locked eyes with Groudon in the night sky. Sparks of electricity ignited in the air. This was a fate that had been passed down for millennia. No matter how many years had passed, their battle would never cease. After returning to the water, Kyogre lashed his tail with a swift swish, charging towards Groudon with the momentum of a man who rides the wind and waves. Groudon, the embodiment of the earth, maintained a calm demeanor. Despite his anxiety, he took each step steadily. Rayquaza circled overhead, each twist of his body stirring gusts of wind. The atmosphere was tense for a moment, and the battle between the three beasts of sea, land and air was about to begin. Chapter 114 Groudon vs. Kyogre. Facing the impending battle between the three legendary beasts, the once star-filled night suddenly began to radiate a brilliant light, momentarily threatening to overshadow the moonlight. As the stars shone, the darkness faded. The appearance of the three legendary beasts finally became apparent. Their bodies were covered in red, flaky, armor-like skin. The dark side of their bodies was gray, with large spikes emanating from their heads, torsos, and tails. Groudon had 4 claws on each hand, 4 bulldozer-like teeth jutting from its tail, and 3 claws on each foot, with gray markings on the soles. As Kyogre leaped from the water, Yu clearly saw that it was a Pokémon resembling a whale, with 2 massive pectoral fins, each tipped with 4 white, square structures. Kyogre's body was dark blue, with a white chin and 2 white spikes protruding from it. Compared to these 2 behemoths, Rayquaza appeared far more imposing, its appearance resembling the flying dragons of Chinese legend. Its body was mostly green, with red-rimmed, rudder-like wings along its shoulders and lower body, and a similar fin at the end of its tail. Yellow rings encircled its body, and another yellow ring appeared atop its head. It had 2 limbs topped by 3 clawed wrists. Its head bore 2 long, flattened, horn-like structures, with 2 smaller horns beneath them. Rayquaza had prominent gums, with 2 distinct fangs at the tip of its upper snout, while the rest of its teeth appeared completely encased in gum tissue. A massive figure, 1 blue and 1 red, faced off against Sora. Above, a dragon-like figure danced, its fangs bared, ready to strike. The atmosphere in the arena was tense, as all 3 sides waited for one to strike first. Feeling the tense atmosphere, Yu swallowed. As a master, his perception naturally surpassed that of the other women, and he could clearly sense the unique pressure emanating from the 3 mythical beasts, far more powerful than even his own Suicune. After all, while his own Suicune was also a mythical beast, it was only a newly hatched creature, like a tiger cub that hadn't even grown its teeth yet. Furthermore, each of these 3 behemoths had lived for centuries, even millennia. Legends even circulated of Proto-Groudon and Proto-Kyogre. Ultimately, it was Kyogre, the more volatile of the 2, who launched the first attack on his mortal enemy, Groudon. Kyogre, worthy of his mythical beast status, skillfully executed Water Cannon, a masterful water-type move. And when Kyogre used it, it truly lived up to its name. The jet of water it unleashed was dozens of times thicker than that of Leafwing Gyarados, resembling a cannonball. With unstoppable force, it charged towards Groudon. Grundok, Groudon didn't flinch at all, roaring to the heavens as a ball of earth yellow energy condensed in front of him. It lashed out at the incoming water cannon. The collision of the two skills generated a massive shockwave, which, while unharmed, dealt the two massive beasts no harm. However, it was a difficult situation for Yu and his companions. Faced with the oncoming storm, they could only find a raised hillside, shivering in fear as they hid behind it. Wow! That was Groudon's primal power just now. This is a battle between mythical beasts. It's truly spectacular and magnificent. I really wish I could fight them too. Yu's eyes shone from behind the hillside, watching this once-in-a-century battle. His eyes were filled with excitement and fighting spirit, and he couldn't wait to rush out and fight them. But faced with the disparity in reality, Yu suppressed the throbbing in his heart. Perhaps he would never again battle such a powerful Pokémon in his lifetime. Or perhaps, once his Suicune matured, he might still have a chance. But who could say? Hey, Yu, don't be impulsive. Seeing Yu's excited expression, his beloved daughter, who had traveled with him the longest and knew him best, immediately grasped Yu's robe tightly with her bare hands, fearing he might rush out and do something foolish in a fit of rage. Pulling back his head, Yu looked at his nervous daughter, speechless. Am I that impulsive? As much as I want to battle a powerful Pokémon, I know my limits and won't do anything I'm not sure of. Yu, you're too ambitious. This is a battle between three legendary beasts. And one careless mistake could affect us all. And you're still watching with such gusto. Xiaoxu looked a little frightened. No, we're too passive like this. Come out, everyone. Joy Masako smoothed her wind-twisted hair and sent out her three Pokémon again to help fend off the attack. Chicken-Poon, Almost, and Squidward, use Freeze Beam. Soon, with the combined efforts of the three Pokémon, a wall of ice surrounded Yu, though a few gaps were left so that Yu and the others could observe the situation outside. Regardless of Yu and the other situation, the battle continued. After his water cannon was blocked, Kyogre used his ability again, Water Wave. A massive wave formed a water ball, packed with overwhelming force, and it flew down the water surface towards Groudon again. Is this a sharp stone attack? Sharp stones began floating in the air, and when they reached a certain number, they launched like a barrage of arrows, one after another, continuously attacking the water ball. Faced with the sharp rocks, the water ball became like a balloon filled with water. The sharp rocks shot out, causing the water ripples to shatter before they reached Groudon, sending a shower of water that obscured both sides' vision. Suddenly, Groudon felt unable to move. When the splash dissipated, he discovered the water around him had frozen solid. Facing the trapped Groudon, Kyogre flapped his wing-like fins, preparing to strike. Suddenly trapped by the ice, Groudon's entire body began to glow red, and a burning aura emanated from him. The ice surrounding him began to melt. Seeing Kyogre already charging, Groudon also took a step forward and charged forward. The water depth was like an adult in shallow water against this behemoth. With each footstep, the ground shook like an earthquake, rumbling with a dull thud. Ugh, this picture is a bit watery. But as divine beasts, Shinju still wanted to describe them in detail, especially Rayquaza. Chapter 115, Multitasking. Bang! The resounding sound of two behemoths colliding created a brief vacuum between the two enormous beasts. After the collision, the two Pokémon tacitly avoided using their skills, merely engaging in a battle of raw strength. Groudon raised its massive claw and smacked Kyogre's head with it. There was no flamboyance, only a sonic boom of force. Kyogre, enraged by Groudon's claw, roared to the heavens and lashed his massive tail into the water. As Yu and the others watched in amazement, Kyogre leaped out of the water, performing a 360-degree flip and delivering a merciless slap to Groudon with his massive fin. A slap. A slap. Okay. While Pokémon didn't understand the meaning of a slap like humans, it couldn't conceal Groudon's fury at this moment. Groudon was completely enraged, roaring to the heavens. The very earth seemed to tremble at its roar. Two powerful claws reached out for Kyogre. It looked as if Groudon was about to lift and fling the giant of the sea. Groudon bang boom, a roar echoed with the sound of a giant falling into the water, sending a splash 7 feet high. Swish gasps echoed in succession. Yu swallowed, his eyes fixed on Groudon, the mountain-like being. Such strength, worthy of the incarnation of the earth, but before he could finish his sigh, Groudon flew backward, crashing into Yu and the others less than 50 meters away. The resulting blast of air blew through the gaping hole in the ice wall, sending the girls slamming into the ice behind them. The wall, unable to withstand the force, began to crack like a spider web. Terrified, the three Pokémon quickly unleashed their freeze rays again, hastening the repair process. Yu, however, was slightly affected by the strong wind, but as a Grandmaster, his lower body movements had become instinctive. His feet felt rooted to the ground, his robes rustling slightly, yet he remained motionless. Gao, Gra, two roars echoed through the sky, and the two massive beasts engaged in another clash, this time more intense than before. Groudon's claws, coated in a dark glow, swung with a resounding thud towards Kyogre. Faced with a powerful shadow claw, Kyogre's broad tail was instantly engulfed by streams of water, slapping the surface with a fierce thud, lashing Groudon. Hoo-hoo, each contact created a resounding sound, sending water splattering and generating a powerful blast of air. Rayquaza, circling overhead, Rayquaza, seemingly irritated by the battle below, or perhaps unable to suppress its inner fighting spirit, let out a roar like a dragon's roar. Twisting its body, it dived, claws and fangs bared, towards the center of the locked tussle between the two divine beasts. Wow, is Rayquaza finally going to attack? Seeing Rayquaza about to join the fray, Yu was instantly filled with excitement, his eyes bright as he stared at Rayquaza's figure, unblinking. Why are you so excited? It's just a Rayquaza, isn't it? Besides, shouldn't your focus right now be on how we can escape from here? Joy Masako glared at her adopted brother with annoyance. You just don't understand, do you? The Dragon-type Pokémon, Rayquaza, is the totem of our nation, our people. Yu coughed likely to cover himself, then leaned back to gaze at Rayquaza's majestic form. At least that's what Yu thought. He spoke with a mixture of seriousness, excitement, and admiration. Wow! It's one of the Dragon-type ultimate moves, Dragon Dive. Yu, like a fervent believer, watched Rayquaza's every move with piercing eyes. Every movement elicited an exclamation of surprise from Yu. Alice. My silly brother is hopeless. Joyako spread her hands, shook her head, and smiled bitterly. Dragon Dive is truly one of the Dragon-type Pokémon's ultimate moves. When Rayquaza wields it, its power is increased by 4 levels. Don't underestimate these 4 levels. Under the impact of Dragon Dive, the two Pokémons retreated, breaking up their entangled fight, and the river water erupted into a mushroom cloud. Kyogre Rayquaza's sudden intrusion completely enraged Groudon and Kyogre. In a moment of tacit agreement, the two mythical beasts, seemingly at odds with each other, attacked Rayquaza, who was nestled between them. To the left was Groudon's explosion, to the right was Kyogre's water cannon. Facing this icy and fiery assault, Rayquaza showed no sign of panic. His eyes remained fierce, his aura high. His sharp claws and whip-like tail were coated in a deep green glow. The emerald claws, imbued with a force that could tear through anything, met the explosion. The long tail, coated in emerald light, gave off an aura of steel-like strength, a destructive force. Seeing this, Yu's eyes nearly popped out, speechless with shock. Huh? Yu, why aren't you talking? Serena asked, somewhat puzzled. PFFT. Yu is just speechless from shock, Joyako chuckled, covering her mouth with her hands. This is truly incredible. Is this the power of a legendary beast that has lived for who knows how many years? Yu took a deep breath, his interest filled with shock and complexity. Sister Masako, what's wrong with you? I think Yu must be shocked by Rayquaza's power. A Pokémon, like it has 2 heads, can actually use 2 skills at the same time. Being a Pokémon isn't the most important thing. The most important thing is that it can control its claws and tail with ease. It's practically multitasking. Joy Masako quickly guessed what Yu was shocked about. Using 2 skills at the same time, isn't that simple? Even my long-tailed fox has such a skill. Air was still puzzled. That's right. Most Pokémon can use 2 skills at the same time, but have you ever seen one do 2 things at once? Let me give you an example. If I asked you to draw a circle with one hand and a square with the other, could you do it? Joy Masako smiled and gave the analogy. If you are listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means it was downloaded and re-uploaded without effort. We warmly invite you to visit our channel, Fanfic World. There you will find the original version of this story and many other novels of various genres. We look forward to seeing you dive into a world of incredible novels. Chapter 116, The Great Battle of Divine Beasts. This really doesn't work, yet. This is too difficult. Sister Masako, can anyone really draw a circle with one hand and a square with the other? After hearing Joy Masako's analogy, Air immediately found branches nearby, holding a branch in each hand and began to draw. Serena and Xiaoguang, who were listening on the side, saw that she looked very amused, and immediately found branches nearby and drew circles on the side. After a while, after trying several times and failing, Air and the others gave up and asked curiously, "Oh, I think it's quite simple." Yiyu's voice suddenly rang out, and he was also holding a branch in each hand. On the ground in front of him, a square and a circle were hanging neatly. Isn't this one ready? So you should first know what Yiyu had in mind when he shocked Rayquaza. While concentrating on using Dragon Claws to tear apart the Great Explosion, he could also use Dragon Tail to sweep away the water cannon. Seeing the square and round, Joyako's eyes lit up. She teased everyone for a moment before launching into a detailed explanation. Split the sky. After neutralizing the two skills, Rayquaza screamed, twisting its body and charging straight at Groudon. A stream of blue-purple energy gathered in Rayquaza's mouth, growing thicker as it went. As if sensing a threat, Groudon also gathered a stream of orange-red energy in its mouth. Dragon Wave, Destructive Death Beam. Yiyu, watching the battle, called out the names of the two skills. Boom! Because the two skills were released in close proximity, the massive energy waves generated by the explosion spread outward, completely engulfing the two Pokémon. As Rayquaza and Groudon clashed fiercely, Kyogre, unwilling to be outdone, enveloped in a current of water, charged forward with unstoppable force at the unsuspecting Rayquaza. The impact was so powerful that Rayquaza, before it could react, was sent flying backwards, dragging its massive body. After knocking Rayquaza back, Kyogre, having barely come to a stop, slammed a pair of massive, dark-hued claws down on its head. The immense force sent Kyogre plummeting to the bottom of the water, sending the surrounding waters radiating outward from Kyogre's center. This is thrilling. Oh my god, that's Dragon Breath. Yiyu, watching this scene, barely managed to breathe a sigh of relief when a column of purple energy shot out from afar, aimed squarely at Groudon. The Dragon's Breath struck Groudon, and thanks to the unexpectedness, Groudon finally collapsed, its massive, mountain-like form toppling backwards. The uninhabited island, unable to withstand its weight, collapsed in half. Glancing at the collapsed ground 100 meters from them, Yiyu and his companions gulped and breathed a sigh of relief, congratulating themselves. It's not bad, it's not bad. Just a tiny bit more and we'd be crushed to pulp. Thank goodness we chose this auspicious location. Although Yubo hadn't claimed them, he had left a significant impact on them. The spiderweb-like cracks in the ice wall grew ever wider. Even the three Pokémon, working at their fastest speed to repair them, couldn't keep up with the cracks. The blast of air blew towards them, and the entire ice wall instantly transformed into shimmering, moonlit shards. Facing the shards drifting towards him and the women, Yiyu quickly channeled his internal energy, creating a protective barrier that blocked them all. Splitguragio. Even the legendary beasts unleashed earth-shattering roars, unleashing their unique legendary might, pressing down upon the other two groups. Feeling the pressure coming from three different directions, the three Pokémon, Almost, Chandler, and Squidward, began to tremble, their faces filled with fear and agony. Despite their immense strength, they fell to their knees. Not just them, but all the surrounding Pokémon, from the sky, land, and sea, prostrated themselves on the ground, trembling in fear, their gazes shrouded in fear in the direction of the pressure. Such a powerful pressure, Joy Masako's expression was filled with solemnity. She immediately took out her Pokéball and collected Almost. Xiaoguang, no longer holding Dragonite, quickly followed Joy Masako's lead and took out her Pokéball to collect it. However, facing the pressure from the three legendary beasts, the women failed to notice that Yiyu was clutching the trembling deep water ball tightly in both hands. Yiyu sensed the constant movement coming from the deep water ball in his hands. It was clear that the little creature, facing three Pokémon like it, but with the pressure of legendary beasts, was filled with fighting spirit, eager to break free from the deep water ball and fight them. After all, every legendary beast is proud, and the pressure exerted by their own kind is a provocation. But no matter how it struggled, Yiyu held the deep water ball tightly. If he let go of it, Suicune would surely jump out, revealing his possession of one of the three sacred beasts, the legendary Suicune. With Suicune's newly hatched strength, any attack from any of the three behemoths would surely send it flying. Feeling Suicune's growing excitement, Yu had no choice but to put the deep water bowl to his lips and whisper something to comfort Suicune. Requagragio leaving aside the restless Suicune, the three mythical beasts finally began their chaotic clash with a few roars. Water cannon, dragon breath, and explosion flew everywhere. With luck, one of them would block the attack, but with less luck, the raging energy waves would wreak havoc on Yu and the others. After entering a water cannon, Rayquaza flew towards Groudon with undiminished momentum. Its claws, seemingly capable of rendezvous, glowed emerald green again as it clawed at Groudon's head, once again frozen by the freezing ray. Groudon was no pushover either. Its body began to glow brightly red, the scorching heat causing the ice created by the freezing ray to melt rapidly, coating its entire body in steam. Its dragon claws gripped Groudon's head, emitting white smoke. However, Rayquaza seemed oblivious to the pain. With a roar, its claws attacked at an even faster pace. At this time, Groudon had completely broken free from the exciting light. A dark gray light flashed on its huge red claws, and it directly used the shadow claws, intending to go head-to-head with Rayquaza to see who was more powerful. Geo. Chapter 117 The Four Divine Beasts Gather. Kyogre, as Groudon's shadow claws and Rayquaza's dragon claws collided, the air erupted in a series of sonic booms, unable to withstand the force. Ultimately, Groudon, the embodiment of the earth, proved superior in strength. Unable to withstand the immense force, Rayquaza was slammed into a nearby island. During the brief moments of their clash, Kyogre, engulfed in the current, crashed into them at breakneck speed. And with that single impact, Groudon was knocked back into the water. The massive fall, accompanied by a cascading splash, sent Yuyu's heart soaring. Groudon, an Earth-type Pokémon, is extremely sensitive to water, even as a legendary beast. But this fall was truly devastating, its entire body submerged in the river. Imagine Groudon's agony. Yuyu, don't worry too much. Groudon is a legendary beast, after all. Seeing the long silence in the water, and seeing Yuyu's nervous expression, the more experienced Joy Masako, reflecting on the information in the Pokémon Encyclopedia, immediately understood what Yuyu was thinking and patted him on the shoulder. At the same time, she admired Yuyu's kindness and his love for Pokémon. Sure enough, in a moment, the entire lake's surface was like boiling water, with bubbles constantly rising. Grow! With a roar, Groudon suddenly leaped out of the water and unleashed a powerful hammer of arms. Its massive arms, like giant hammers, smashed down on Kyogre. After Groudon was knocked to the surface, Kyogre became defensive, scanning his surroundings cautiously. When he saw a dark figure bursting out of the water, he immediately launched a self-sacrificing charge, charging fearlessly at the shadow. Just as they were about to collide, Rayquaza appeared mid-sentence. Using his super speed ability, Rayquaza instantly surpassed the other two legendary beasts. Just as Kyogre was about to collide, Rayquaza outpaced it and slammed into Groudon, sending it flying backwards. Having lost his target, Kyogre was in even worse luck. Groudon was knocked back, forcing Kyogre to crash into the uninhabited island. Such a collision was a formidable force. The entire island began to shake violently, as if it would collapse at any moment. Kyogre raged, believing Groudon, having been sent flying by Rayquaza, was playing a trick on him. As he flew back into the water, he immediately activated Water Wave. With Kyogre's roar, waves spread outward from him, like a surging wave, each one higher than the last. Facing the devastating onslaught, Rayquaza soared into the air, twisting and circling, poised for another attack. Then, Groudon, the embodiment of the earth, was in trouble. Unable to fly, it had to bear the brunt of Kyogre's attacks. But Groudon was no pushover. Its massive size allowed it to plant its feet firmly on the ground through the water. It unleashed Earthquake and Earth Force in quick succession, lifting its massive paw and stomping it fiercely on the ground, simultaneously unleashing Earth Force. Earthquake, by its very nature, deals massive damage to both single and group targets. Combined with Earth Force, Earthquake shook the entire ground, cracking parts of the underwater surface and collapsing in places, creating a sense of apocalyptic devastation. The Earth's power, born from the earthquake, instantly dispersed the surging waves. Kyogre was also affected, letting out a cry of pain. Groudon wasn't feeling well either, having been somewhat affected by the massive wave. While the clams clashed, the fisherman profited. Rayquaza seized the opportunity to attack, sweeping out its tail in succession, aiming directly at Kyogre and Groudon's heads. Oh my goodness, Yu and his companions were caught in the aftermath of the battle. The area was now a shattered mess, with entire trees broken and shattered. A massive boulder, ripped from a high peak by the violent tremors, landed right where Yu and his group were. If Yu hadn't reacted quickly and, in the crucial moment, dispatched Suicune to use his freeze beam to barely deflect the boulder, they would have been finished. This, if I'm not mistaken, isn't this one of the 3 sacred beasts of the Ho-Oh, the divine beast Suicune? Joy Masako pointed at Suicune with a trembling, jade-white finger. Ho-Oh, the 3 sacred beasts, divine beast, Suicune, Serena and Air, both living in the Kalos region, also wondered, each filled with curiosity. How could there be another divine beast? It looked like it was Yu's Pokémon. They were still a little confused, but what was going on today? This divine beast gathering. First, Groudon, Kyogre, then Rayquaza, and now Suicune. Yu, knowing he could no longer conceal the truth, nodded in acknowledgement. Yes, this is Suicune. My master gave it to me, barely hatched. This guy actually tamed the legendary Suicune. Taken. These were the only thoughts in Joy Masako's mind. Unlike her daughter, as a member of a prominent family and a skilled Pokémon trainer, she knew how difficult it was to convince a legendary Pokémon. Putting aside the question of whether one had the luck to encounter one, their power alone rivaled or even surpassed that of the Pokémon in the Champions League. Furthermore, every legendary Pokémon was proud, even the weakest would not willingly be tamed by humans. Judging by the closeness between Yu and Suicune, and the fact that Suicune had just obeyed Yu's orders without hesitation, it was clear that Suicune was willing to follow Yu. This is why Joy Masako was so shocked. Just think about it. Every Pokémon has potential if trained well, let alone a legendary beast. Once they grow up, they'll be unstoppable. They'll almost have the power to compete with champion-level Pokémon trainers. Okay, Yu. You're still hiding this. If it weren't for this incident, you wouldn't have sent Suicune out in front of us. Joy Masako immediately transformed from a gentle older sister to a fierce one, reaching out to grab Yu's ear and complaining. How could that be? You're all my best friends. It's just that I'm still too weak to protect it, Yu said softly, looking at Suicune, who was rubbing his thigh with a smile on his face. Chapter 118 3 Divine Beasts' Secret Moves. The fierce battle between the 3 mythical beasts continued, while on the seemingly out-of-place island next to them, the atmosphere grew somewhat subdued. Joyako was silent for a moment, her eyes complex as she looked at Yu, who was now calm and somewhat frighteningly so. Yu, I can't say anything about your actions. An innocent man is guilty of possessing a treasure. But everyone might think differently than you do. You shouldn't be constantly on guard against those around you. Joyako didn't know what Yu had been through, but she felt that his heart was tightly closed, and he was always wary of those around him. Oh, I don't want to either, Yu smiled bitterly, but his expression immediately became calm again. I'm used to the world of martial arts. If I weren't constantly vigilant and on guard against others, I'd probably have been devoured without a trace left. Wherever there are people, there is the world of martial arts. The world of martial arts is cruel, full of grudges and disputes. This is an eternal truth. Don't trust others easily. Someone with a kind face might be a sly villain. This was a lesson Yu had learned over the years, and it was also the lesson his master had repeatedly warned him before he left. Even outside the martial arts world, he remained wary of those around him. Even around Air and the others, Yu had been wary for a time. Yu Serena bit her lower lip, looking at Yu with an indefinable gaze. Yu good. Yu, you scoundrel. You even hid the legendary Suicune from your companions who'd been traveling with you for so long. Air's heart was also filled with complex and incomprehensible emotions after hearing Yu's words. But sensing the atmosphere was off, she quickly changed the subject, feigning a fierce expression. Air, hands on her hips, her lips pouting so high she could practically pierce an iron, looked furious. What Air didn't know was that, far from looking menacing, she gave off a uniquely beautiful, almost kawaii vibe. The woman's varied looks made Yu's heart tremble. He quickly pleaded, I'm sorry, it's my fault. I won't do it again next time. What do you mean by next time? Joyako's face darkened, and she was about to lecture Yu. Suddenly, a pillar of fire shot out from nowhere. Yu hurried forward, pulling Air and Serena behind him, and ordered, Suicune, use bubble beam. Suicune blew a stream of bubbles from his mouth, meeting the pillar of fire. Although water overcomes fire, at its peak, even water can be vaporized. Is this the power of mythical beasts like Groudon? They're truly powerful. A single flying pillar of fire can even outperform Bubble Beam, a powerful force. Yu was filled with wonder, but he didn't forget to order again. Suicune, use Bubble Beam and Freeze Beam alternately. Just as the pillar of fire was about to reach the others, it was finally dissipated into thin air by the alternating forces of ice and water. No, this place is too dangerous. We need to find a way to get out of here. Everyone, come out, Joy Masako said solemnly, filled with dread. If Suicune hadn't intervened in time to block the red pillar, they would all have perished. Without hesitation, she sent out her 3 Pokémon again to protect them. After all, Suicune's power was still too limited. Just as they were thinking of a way out, the fierce battle between the 3 legendary beasts intensified. Moonlight streamed like water, pouring down upon the area left by the battle. Aside from the flowing water, the entire island was in shattered tatters, with shattered hills and burning trees, all testament to the ferocity of the battle. Oh, why do I feel like you're just here for show, Suicune? Yu's mouth twitched. How could 2 legendary beasts be so different? Suicune, you should grow up quickly so I can have more confidence. Finally, Groudon's earth power and Rayquaza's dragon tail separated the 3 beasts from their tussle, turning the situation into a 3-way standoff. If we let them continue like this, it will never end. Not to mention finding a way to open it up. The affected area is too wide. Joy Masako frowned, obviously distressed. What can we do? Air also rested her chin on her hand, lost in thought. Yu glanced around at the girls who looked a little distressed but couldn't think of a solution, and was a little stunned. They say that focused boys are the most handsome, and isn't it the same for girls? I have a plan. What? I waited for them to ask, but Yu gave the order. Suicune and almost, use Freeze Beam on Groudon. As for Chandler and Jigglypuff, use Freeze Beam on Rayquaza. Yu, what are you doing, exactly? To incite the anger of the other 2 and hasten the end of the battle, Yu let out a smug smile. If those 3 legendary beasts kept fighting, who knew how long it would take? He might as well add fuel to the fire. Sure enough, with the combined power of the 4 Pokémon's Freeze Beams, Kyogre immediately became the target. While the combined power of the 4 Pokémon's Freeze Beams wasn't as strong as Kyogre's, the 3 behemoths present were already addicted to the fight and paid no attention to the details. Groudon and Rayquaza, believing Kyogre was provoking them, grew even more furious. Streams of energy gradually gathered before them. Sensing the stern and violent atmosphere, Kyogre, though unaware of what was happening, was unwilling to fall behind. Water waves gathered within its gaping maw. He glanced at Groudon, then at Rayquaza, then at Kyogre. SHHH, Yu gasped, his expression turning grim. It's over, it's over. This is a disaster. Suicune, quickly cast Freeze Beam all around you and create a defensive barrier. Joyako's mouth twitched, and she stared up at the sky in silence. What's wrong? Serena asked, looking between the 3 nearby divine beasts charging their abilities, then back at Yu and Joyako, who were looking somewhat uneasy. Reverse scale. Primal power. Water wave. Joyako didn't answer directly, but simply named the abilities the 3 divine beasts were charging. Serena also came forward and asked, what's so strange about these skills? These skills are nothing strange, it's just that these 3 moves are extremely powerful skills in their respective systems. As Joy Masako's frantic voice fell, the attacks of the 3 beasts came as expected. Bang, be careful. Chapter 119 Reality and Dreams. The silvery moonlight sprinkled on the beach, and the mournful chirping of crickets could be heard everywhere. The fragrance of the night permeated the air, weaving a soft net that enveloped all the scenery. The seaside at night was very quiet. There were no noisy conversations or clamorous cars in the big city, only the gentle sound of the wind and the beautiful sound of the waves, as well as the unique music played by insect-type Pokémon. Home somewhere on the uninhabited island, Yu opened his eyes in a daze, yawned, and sat up to take in the surroundings. Where is this place? Although he was still a little confused, the alertness unique to a Grandmaster immediately made Yu sober up in this unfamiliar environment. Xiaoxia and I were washed ashore by a waterfall and landed on a deserted island, where we discovered Pikachu had a fever. Then, Masako-san, Air, and Serena found us. Since Pikachu's fever hadn't subsided yet, we went looking for the resurrection plant. Then, we encountered 3 legendary Pokémon, and they engaged in a fierce battle. ultimately unleashing their most powerful moves. Yu covered his head with a slight ache, reassessing the entire sequence in his mind. Serena, who was lying nearby, faintly awoke. Taking in the unfamiliar surroundings, her beautiful eyes widened, and she abruptly sat up. Turning to see Yu, who sat there in a daze, she breathed a sigh of relief, patting her newly formed Pokémon in a moment of fear. Yu, what's going on? Where are we? Serena sat on the soft grass in a duck-like position, her bright eyes widening, looking particularly captivating in the moonlight. However, Yu, still lost in his memories, hadn't noticed the captivating scene. I don't know. I only remember what happened before the three beasts unleashed their abilities. Oh, where are the others? Yu suddenly realized. He'd been so preoccupied with sorting out his memories that he hadn't even had time to scan his surroundings. They're right next to us. Serena looked at him curiously, but she still reached out to wake the still sleeping people. Yu shuddered, feeling as if he were being watched. But in the moonlight, there was nothing around except a few trees and flowers. Huh? We're still alive. Is this heaven? Meanwhile, Joy Ayako and the others were gradually waking up. Joy Ayako, upon waking, immediately said something that made Yu break out in a cold sweat. Put, Sister Ayako, you're quite humorous. Ayer couldn't help but laugh. Pika, a yellow figure, pounced on Yu, nuzzling his face with excitement. The sudden appearance of the figure startled Yu, and he instinctively wanted to attack. He sensed Pikachu's presence and brake just in time. If he had been even a second slower, Pikachu would have come into direct contact with his punching bag-sized fist. Great, Pikachu, your fever's gone. Yu instinctively placed his hand on Pikachu's forehead. Feeling the heat fade, he breathed a sigh of relief, yet at the same time, he was filled with confusion. Was this real? Was it a dream or reality? If it were a dream, then Groudon and the other three legendary beasts would have wiped us out completely. But if it were reality, then how could Pikachu's fever have subsided? And the island in his dream shouldn't have been shattered. Why was it so peaceful now? Whoosh, the wind rustled, and a sudden, slightly cool sea breeze blew towards him. It gave him a chilling sensation, and goosebumps covered his skin. Yu stood in the center of a meadow of flowers, faintly scenting their fragrance. The moonlight shone through the surrounding trees, creating a scene of tranquility and peace, and also eerie. Peering through the obstructing trees into the darkness beyond, it resembled a ferocious beast crouching on the ground, its maw gaping. Suddenly, a white hand rested on Yu's shoulder, sending her hair standing on end. She leaped 3 feet into the air, shrieking. Yu, what's wrong with you? You're acting like a lunatic. Looking at Yu, who is leaping around like a long-tailed monster, Joy Masako's mouth twitched. Haha. It's you, Masako. It's nothing, I just feel a little creepy here. Yu exhaled deeply, feeling humiliated by what she had just done, and laughed it off to change the subject. The inky blackness of the night obscured the beauty of the flowers and trees. The occasional breeze and the chirping of insect-type Pokémon added a touch of mystery to the atmosphere. Yu, you're not a coward afraid of the dark, are you? Xiao Yako gave a wicked grin. Nonsense. I'm not afraid of anything. Yu immediately jumped up like a cat with its fur standing on end. Why is there a red shadow floating by? It looks like a pair of eyes. Ayer's exclamation sounded inopportunely. What the hell? Yu's face twisted, cold sweat soaking his clothes. Did someone just say he was fearless? Xiaoxia had obviously heard Yu's words. But he wasn't finished yet. I'm not afraid of anything, but I'm afraid of ghosts. Yu was filled with shame at the playful expressions of the crowd. He wished he could find a crack in the ground to crawl into, and his voice gradually became quieter. Gigglepuff Pika, seeing Yu's aggrieved look, like a child who had done something wrong, the girls couldn't help but cover their mouths and giggle. His charming appearance added a touch of color to the earth shrouded in the pitch-black night. Even the Pikachu perched on Yu's shoulder slapped its forehead and turned its head away, as if to say, I don't know this thing. Alright. Everyone, stop laughing. Yu is right. There's something strange here. Joy Masako's expression was now serious, a complete departure from her earlier playful smile, perfectly embodying the saying that girls' expressions change faster than the pages of a book. By the way, do you have any resurrection grass? Yu gazed at the women with a burning gaze. He had a feeling that if he knew the answer to this question, the underlying mystery would be solved. Resurrection grass? Let me look. Serena removed her backpack and began searching. Found it, in a moment. Serena was clutching a strange-looking herb. This isn't a dream. Glancing at the resurrection grass in Serena's hand through the moonlight, then looking at his own, Yiyu's lips curled slightly, a look of confidence. But was it really so? Chapter 120, Pokémon Storybook. On the moonlit island, a gentle breeze rustled, ruffling everyone's clothes and hair, a scene that captivated them. Mixed in with the wind was an eerie sound of laughter, whether human or Pokémon. Hey! What's that all about? You're still laughing? Yiyu's face darkened, thinking the girls were still laughing at his earlier behavior. What? We weren't laughing, yet. I thought it was you, Yiyu, laughing. Serena and the others looked at each other, bewildered. Then what's with that laughter? Yiyu's scalp throbbed, his hair standing on end. Hey, he. Gulp. Yiyu swallowed, flipped his hand, and with a flash of cold light, the Yageo spear was already in his hand. There are no ghosts in this world, just some mischievous ghost-type Pokémon playing tricks, Joyako chuckled softly. Then her face turned serious, completely devoid of her previous playful expression. She ordered the 3 Pokémon that had just risen from the ground, almost, show you what a ghost is. Use Trick Space, and Jigglypuff and Chandler use Psychic. Even though it wasn't the first time he'd seen Joyako's expression change so quickly, it still took Yiyu a while to react. It was a habit she'd inherited. Normally, she was a gentle and intelligent Pokémon nurse, able to joke and even socialize with others. But when it came to Pokémon or Pokémon battles, she became calm, serious, and passionate. That's right. Ghost-type Pokémon are very afraid of Psychic-type moves. And all those Psychic-type moves are just Psychic-type moves. Air, who had traveled with Yiyu the longest and had a certain understanding of Pokémon battles, finally realized what was happening, a look of sudden realization on Sunrise's face. That's about right. Jigglypuff Ball, a cubic barrier composed of pale purple volumetric energy, covered a 50-meter radius. Though it flashed only briefly, it was truly present within this space. Within this cubic barrier, slower Pokémon would use their moves before faster ones. Of course, this wouldn't work against high-priority moves like speed. This was the effect of the Trick Dimension. As expected, under the influence of the Trick Dimension, the shadows flashed and vanished. Although still swift, Yiyu was able to barely catch a glimpse of them. With the powerful mental power of Puffball and Chandler activated, the mysterious creature hidden in the darkness was finally revealed under the stranglehold of their mental power. Dream Demon, a magical Pokémon. It casts spells, some inflicting pain on its opponents, others bringing happiness. It appears and disappears mysteriously, muttering curses and conjuring terrifying illusions. By the time that Pokémon appeared, Yiyu had already acquired the Pokémon Guide, and he was eager to see which Pokémon had dared to toy with him. Great, it's you, the Dream Demon. I'm going to teach you a lesson. Yiyu gritted his teeth. Hey, Yiyu, calm down. Look around you. Serena nervously tugged at Yiyu's shirt, whispering a warning with a slightly frightened expression. Well, what's there to calm down about? Give it a first. That's a foul. Following Serena's warning, Yiyu, who had been so furious and determined to give it a beating, suddenly fell silent, his words stuttering, a hint of fear in his eyes. Pairs of scarlet-purple eyes emerged, and one dream demon after another took shape before the crowd's eyes. This isn't another case of outnumbered individuals bullying the few. Xiaoxu couldn't help but hold her forehead. This island is so strange. Why do I always encounter swarms of Pokémon? Recalling her previous encounter on the water, Air grew distressed. Dream Demon Yiyu released his own giant claw crab as well, his eyes warily scanning the surrounding dream demons for any sudden attack. Yiyu, stop, don't be impulsive. They mean no harm. Joyako stepped forward to block Yiyu's path, fearing he might alarm the dream demons and spark another fight. Yiyu's brow furrowed in displeasure, but before Joyako, he could only obediently sheath his Yageo gun, his gaze still wary. Alright. The dream demons didn't mean it, they were just joking with us. Think about it carefully, if the dream demons really wanted to harm us, would we still be standing here intact? Joey Masako seemed very kind, and rolled her eyes in annoyance, while Yiyu's body was still tense. It seems that what you said is right. Yiyu nodded thoughtfully, and then as if he thought of something, his eyes suddenly lit up, and he pounded his right fist on his left palm, as if he had suddenly realized something. I understand, It turns out that what happened before should be the alternation between dreams and reality. Perhaps the dream demons appeared beside us when we appeared on this island, but it must be for some reason. After we obtained the resurrection herb and gave Pikachu the healing drug, the dream demons used their signature skills to treat us when we fell into a nightmare. You felt a little dry in the mouth after saying so much in one breath. A nightmare? I don't think so. To me, it was a beautiful dream. I actually witnessed 4 legendary beasts in one night. Although the experience was a bit terrifying, this dream is the most unforgettable for me. Unlike you, Joy Masako's eyes lit up with excitement, a stark difference from the misjoys she saw on a normal day. If it were just a nightmare, how could it feel so real to us? And there are so many legendary Pokemon I don't know about. Serena was clearly still a little unconvinced. I think I understand what's going on. Suddenly, Yu's mouth twitched unconsciously, and his trembling fingers pointed at something floating next to the dream demon. A closer look revealed a fairy tale book with the words Pokemon Storybook printed on it. Chapter 121 Daily Life. The dawn slowly opened, bringing another vibrant and colorful morning with a refreshing touch. Excellent, Pikachu. Use lightning flash on that tree again. Rocket, now get used to the resistance provided by the wristbands and fly 10 more circles around the Pokemon Center. Charmander, through the cracks in the glass, the faint sounds of Yu and his Pokemon doing their morning exercises drifted into a room filled with the fragrance of young girls. What's going on out there? It's so noisy. A young woman with beautiful brown hair turned over impatiently, pressing the side of her pillow against her head. Oh. No wonder it's Yu again. This guy always likes to get up before dawn to practice martial arts and train Pokemon. The girl with long pink hair sighed, rubbed her sleepy eyes, and sat up in bed. Yu is incredibly energetic. I thought I was the first one up this time. After all, Yu yesterday, the girl with light green hair, looking mature, was already dressed and making her bed, chuckling softly. She appeared both gentle, virtuous, and intellectually beautiful. Indeed, the 3 women occupying this room were Serena, and Xiaoxu, who had rushed back to the Pokemon Center overnight. Speaking of last night, after Yu had figured everything out, he let down his guard and returned the Yajiao gun to his stored ring. I never thought what we just experienced would be based on this storybook. Joy Masako chuckled as she read the storybook she had borrowed from the Dream Demon. Then we better get out of here quickly, or the Dream Demon might send us into another dream, and that wouldn't be fun, Serena said weakly. The worldview she had just experienced was far too overwhelming for a novice trainer like her. Thinking about Serena's words, Yu couldn't help but shudder, and quickly echoed, Serena, let's get out of here quickly. This is making me shudder. It wasn't that he was truly afraid of ghosts. Just thinking about what happened in his dream made Yu uneasy and terrified. He didn't want to experience it again. Okay then, considering everyone's spirits were low, Joyako agreed. After all, even though you were asleep, the experiences in your dreams were enough to make you mentally exhausted, and it was only physical rest, the equivalent of a nightmare. Goodbye, Dream Demon, have a good life on the island. We'll come back to see you when we have the chance. Don't play such pranks again. It's too exciting. Some people with weak hearts might get sick from the fright. Dream Demon. With those farewells, Joyako sailed the boat, and Yu and the others returned overnight to the Pokemon where Serena and the others had been sheltering. Hey, Xiaoxu, you don't have to get up so early, do you? Air picked up a Pokemon magazine and started reading. No. I have to get up early to make breakfast for you, so since it's still early, I plan to buy some ingredients. Do you want to join us? Xiaoxu combed her long light green hair and looked at the 2 girls who were still lying in bed. No, I tossed and turned all night yesterday and I'm exhausted. Let me sleep a little longer. Serena turned over in a daze, with her back to Xiaoxu. What about Air? As for me, I'm going to get up now, wash up, and then go find Yu to ask him to accompany me in Pokemon training. And by the way, think about the Pokemon performance to be performed at the performance meeting. Air listened to the action of flipping through the Pokemon magazine, pondered for a moment, then closed the magazine, lifted the quilt covering her body, and prepared to get up. Okay. I'll go get groceries first. What? Special training with Yu? Wait for me, Serena suddenly exclaimed, and like a cat smelling fish, she perked up and sat up with a somersault. Not caring about her messy hair from sleeping, she immediately put on her slippers and ran to wash up. Air, who had just put on her slippers and stood up, was stunned. She had just been lazily lying in bed. How could she suddenly become so energetic? Xiaozhi asked with her mouth slightly open, stunned. What's wrong with Serena? Who knows? Air shrugged and went to the bathroom to wash up. Back to Yu, looking at the 7 Pokemon who were training so hard, his heart was filled with pride and fighting spirit, and at the same time, he was also planning the training plan for his own Pokemon in the future. Because Suicune was a legendary beast, Yu didn't intend to expose it to the public. While few people living in Kalos knew about legendary beasts from other regions, there were inevitably 1 or 2 who knew about them. Also, since the number of Pokemon he was carrying had already exceeded the limit of 6, 2 were supposed to be sent to Professor Oak's laboratory. However, the more knowledgeable Joy Masako suggested a solution: leave the extra Pokemon with the 3 women for safekeeping. After all, none of the 3 women had more than 3 Pokemon yet. Serena, a novice trainer, especially, only had 1 Pokemon so far, so Yu entrusted her with the safekeeping of the 3 Pokemon. Serena agreed without hesitation. Thinking back to Serena's blushing face and the joy she saw at him, Yu still felt puzzled. Why did Yu give Serena 3 Pokemon when it was clear that only 2 would be enough? Of course, the vacant spots can be used in case of future needs, such as when you encounter your favorite Pokemon and want to release it to fight immediately after you capture it. Hey, I'm talking about the following. Can you please keep your voice down? Suddenly, a window in the Pokemon Center room opened, and a boy poked his head out and shouted towards the training ground in the backyard. The sudden voice interrupted Yu's thoughts, but he didn't get angry and hurriedly apologized. At the same time, he also took the Pokemon to place with fewer people. What Yu didn't know was that just as he left with a Pokemon, Air and Serena, who had just finished washing up, walked hand in hand through the Pokemon Center. Looking at the empty backyard, Serena scratched her head, wrinkled her nose, and asked in confusion, "Where are Yu and the others?" Chapter 122 Confused Serena. Seeing the dust being blown up in the air, Serena showed her girlish side, pouting a little and saying, "I don't know, he was here just now, how come he disappeared as soon as he left the room?" "Humph. We agreed yesterday to do special training together today." Seeing this, the playful and cute Air was listening to what she said. Serena's heart tightened, and she became a little nervous. Then, what should we do now? Why don't we go back to sleep now? Air rolled her eyes and said unhappily, "Since you're already awake, why don't you stay and accompany me to perform the Pokemon show?" "Okay then." Serena puffed up her cheeks, looking listless. "Come out." Flycatcher, Melodic, and Butterfree, Air dispatched her Pokemon and clapped her hands to draw their attention. "Alright, from now on, let's continue our practice run and work hard to get the 3rd Princess Key, but we have to keep our voices down," Air said playfully, as if suddenly realizing something. She raised her index finger to her lips, winked, and said playfully, "Flycatcher, use the fire spray, Melodic, use the water gun, and Butterfree, carry me through the air." The fire spray and water gun collided, producing a large amount of steam. Use Whirlwind. Suddenly, a strong gust of wind blew, instantly dispersing the steam. Butterfree grabbed Air's clothes from behind and flew out in an S-shaped trajectory. In the early morning sunlight, she seemed shrouded in a holy light. She wore a snow-white dress, and the pair of wings behind her added a touch of otherworldly aura, like a fairy descended into the mortal world, now beautiful and dreamy. "Wow, my dear, you're so beautiful." Serena, sitting on a nearby lounge chair holding Firefox, was also a little surprised. "Firefox, Firefox, Firefox." The Firefox in her arms nodded in agreement. For a moment, both the person and the pet watched the dancing figures with their eyes ablaze. "Amazing, that girl is so beautiful, wonderful." Not only them, but even passers-by passing by the backyard of the Pokemon Center were taken aback. Some even stopped to watch, cheering when they were enjoying the show. Long-tailed Firefox, next is the Flame Spray. Melodic Bubble Beam, the flames, like dancing ribbons, appeared again. With Serena and the blue butterfly at the center, the flame spread outward in waves, dazzling like a spinning top. Adding to the pearly, transparent bubbles, the scene became even more dreamy and dazzling. "Hey! Look, guys! That girl's pretty." Yet, those 3 Pokemon look pretty good too. They'll definitely fetch a good price. How we'll have to sell them for a good price. That way, we can live it up for a while, not far away. A group of scoundrels, dressed in shabby clothes and with colorful hair, were squatting on a nearby street, pointing and commenting at Air. Because the Pokémon Center was located in a small town, and with the passing cars and pedestrians, they didn't really stand out. Air continued her performance, the crowd's praise filling her ears, filling her with joy and pushing her even harder. Watching Air, immersed in her performance, her bright smile beaming with joy, Serena felt a wave of confusion. Yu's goal was to become the strongest Pokémon Master, Air's goal was to win the Triple Crown Satellite Tournament and become the Kalos Queen, and Xiaoxi's goal was to become the world's top breeder. So what was her goal? To inherit her mother's career and become a Raiden runner, or to become a Pokémon trainer like Yu, challenging gyms, collecting badges, and competing in the Kalos League? Serena tugged at her neatly combed hair in annoyance. Ah, this is so annoying. As if sensing her master's complex feelings, Foxy looked up and whispered at her, her eyes filled with worry and inquiry. Ah, what's wrong with Foxy? Foxy. He held the long-tailed Foxy up to his face and met its gaze, his ruby-like eyes filled with innocence and concern. It's okay. We'll think about it later. Foxy, you'll always be by my side, right? Serena smiled brightly, nuzzling Foxy's cheek. Hey, what happened? Why are you guys so happy? Just as Serena was lost in thought, Air finished her performance training and sat down on a chair next to Serena, curiously asking. The crowd, seeing there was no more excitement to watch, dispersed, and for a moment, the Pokémon backyard returned to silence. Seeing Air's curious question, Serena hesitated, but finally spoke with a bewildered tone. I've been traveling for a while now. I see each of you have goals and a direction to strive for. But I still don't know what my goal or dream is. Seeing Serena's dejected expression, Air said nothing. She leaned back in her chair, pouting, and gazed at the leisurely white clouds drifting overhead, wondering what she was thinking. Goals and dreams? If I don't have them now, we can find them slowly. We'll definitely find them along the way. We're just getting started. Finding our goal may be the moment we set foot on the starting point. After a long pause, there was movement, and it was unclear whether she was talking to herself or to Serena. Oh, so there are two beauties here? A sudden frivolous voice interrupted the conversation between the two women. Following the voice king, Air couldn't help but frown in disgust, but asked in a calm tone, Who are you? A group of thugs dressed in fancy clothes and mismatched attire were walking towards them. After all, Air was the one who had traveled with Yu the longest, and she had encountered at least a few storms. Therefore, at this moment, even though she knew that the other party had bad intentions, she still forced herself to remain calm. Oh. It's nothing, I just want to make friends with you, and will like your Pokémon. If you know what's good for you, just hand them over. Otherwise, he the thug with a tattoo of Rayquaza threatened, and waved a baseball bat in his hand. What else? If you are listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means it was downloaded and re-uploaded without effort. We warmly invite you to visit our channel, Fanfic World. There you will find the original version of this story and many other novels of various genres. We look forward to seeing you dive into a world of incredible novels. Chapter 123 Air's Battle. So what? If you want to fight, then fight. Long-tailed Fox and the others are my best friends. I won't hand them over to you. Perhaps because he'd been with Yu for so long, Air had become overbearing when it came to matters concerning his Pokémon, leaving no room for negotiation. The tattooed man frowned, then let out a sinister grin. Yo. You're quite arrogant, little girl. Don't you want to take a toast? Since you're so eager to fight, Miyamoto will grant you your wish. With a savage grin, Miyamoto pulled a Pokéball from his pocket, enlarged it, and tossed it upward. With a swing of his bat, he fiercely hit the Pokéball with a baseball-style blow. The Pokéball, like a tennis ball from a tennis ball launcher, soared towards the two women with a piercing sound. Ah! The two women screamed in shock at the sudden scene before them. As the Pokéball was getting closer and closer, about to hit the two girls, it opened with a bang. A Pokémon wrapped in red light jumped out of it. Thug. As soon as it came out, the Pokémon screamed to the sky with great momentum, glaring at Air and Serena with a fierce look. Although Air and Serena had calmed down, they were still startled by the sudden appearance of the Pokémon. As a novice trainer, Serena took out the Pokémon Pokédex to check. Thug, the desert crocodile Pokémon. The evolved form of the dark-eyed crocodile. The special membrane covering the eyeball is used to sense the heat energy of objects. It can see the surroundings even in the dark. What should we do? This thug looks so fierce. As a completely novice trainer, Serena now seemed a little lacking in confidence. Although was no longer a novice in training, he was a little nervous at the moment, but he still forced himself to be calm and shouted, "Hey, what do you want to do? I tell you, this is the Pokémon Center. If you dare to make trouble, be careful that Miss Junsha will catch you." "Oh, I'm so scared." Miyamoto pretended to be very scared, with an expression that asked for a beating, and then he showed a ferocious grin. "Ha, we are fine. We are just fighting Pokémon. What can Miss Junsha do to us?" Oh yes, if it was just a simple Pokémon battle, Miss Junsha really couldn't control them. Thinking of this, Air's face became a little ugly. What's the matter? Are you feeling scared?" Miyamoto laughed strangely. "Why are these thugs here again? Oh, those two girls are probably going to get into trouble. They're really getting more and more out of control. No way, they always have a legitimate reason. Miss Junsha can only detain them for a week at most, and then they'll be back to causing trouble." With the arrival of the thugs, people gathered around, pointing and whispering. "Hey, what are you doing? If you want to cause trouble, go somewhere else. You're disturbing the patients at the Pokémon Center." The commotion outside immediately attracted Miss Joy, who had been busy since early morning. Seeing the aggressive thugs, Miss Joy showed no fear. She put her hands on her waist and scolded them sternly. It's worth mentioning that last night, after returning Yu and the others to the Pokémon Center, Joy Masako suddenly received an emergency call. After telling Yu to wait for him, she hurried away and hasn't returned since. Miss Joy, you're joking. How could a law-abiding citizen like me cause trouble in a sacred place like the Pokémon Center?" Miyamoto grinned. "I'd be crazy to believe you." Miss Joy frowned, wrinkling her nose and snorting. "It's better this way. If I find out you're not saying what you mean, it won't be me who'll entertain you next time." But Miss Joy didn't believe it either, but had no evidence of Miyamoto's mischief, so she could only use Miss Junsha as a deterrent. Miyamoto curled his lips in disbelief, not taking Miss Joy's words to heart. "Are you kidding? My kendo skills weren't practiced in vain." HMPH, Miss Joy snorted, tossing her head and walking towards Air and the others. Air smiled at Miss Joy and Serena, who were looking at her worriedly, although she was still a little nervous. "Come on, Air. You can do it. We've trained so many times with Yu just for this moment. Come on," Air mentally encouraged herself. "Come on." Exhaling, Air looked directly at Miyamoto Ichi. "Crocodile, show her true power." "Wait a minute, since this is a Pokémon battle, I'll be the referee." Miss Joy, fearing Air would suffer, stepped forward. After all, Air was Masako Joy's friend, and she would do whatever she could to help. "It doesn't matter. I'll definitely win anyway, thank you, Miss Joy." Air seemed much more polite by comparison. Miss Joy nodded in satisfaction and walked to the center outside the battle area. "Then I'll announce the rules. 2 Pokémon may be used. When one side loses both, the other gains." "Alright. Stop rambling. Crocodile, use stone attack." Miyamoto Ichi suddenly interrupted, waving his hand impatiently and giving the order. Faced with a sudden attack, Air immediately and frantically gave the command, Minheo water gun. Whether it was coincidence or good luck, Air instinctively sent out the Minheo, which had a more advantageous stat, but even so, due to the haste, the water gun only knocked away a small portion of the sharp stones. The remaining stones, like a string of sharp arrows, continuously hit the Minheo. "Minheo, don't give them a chance to breathe." Rogue Crocodile, bite. "Minheo, hold on." Just as Rogue Crocodile's teeth gleamed, it was about to bite the Minheo, when a turquoise energy shield suddenly appeared around it, completely protecting it. Instantly, Rogue Crocodile was directly repelled. "Dig a hole." Using the force of the shield's deflection, Rogue Crocodile's upper body quickly dug underground. "It's gone. What should I do?" Air glanced around nervously, fearing that Rogue Crocodile would suddenly emerge from the ground. Chapter 124 Self-Regeneration. "No, I need to stay calm. I have to." Air forced herself to calm down. Suddenly, her eyes lit up as if a thought had occurred to her. If it were Yu right now, what would he do? She tried to recall the battles she had witnessed between Yu and other trainers. Memories flashed through her mind like a slideshow, one after another. And her memory froze on one scene. "Pikachu, use Iron Tail to knock him out. If it doesn't work once, try twice." In her memory, Yu pointed to the area in front of Pikachu, where no Pokémon were present, and commanded calmly, her lips curled slightly. Pikachu. Even after Pikachu used Iron Tail and struck the ground, nothing happened. Only a muffled groan echoed from the ground. The second time, the same thing happened again. Only after the third time, when the ground was cracked by the blow, did a figure emerge from the ground. A closer look revealed it was a Sandslash that was much more vigorous and energetic than usual. Mountain Piercer. The Mountain Piercer, now drained of all its strength, lay motionless on the ground, only occasionally uttering a few painful groans. Coming out of her memories, Air flashed a rare confident smile towards Miyamoto. Minchao, use your full strength Dragon Tail on the ground. Air had used Gyarados teach Minchao this move. Though newly learned, the force it unleashed was formidable. The tail, enveloped in emerald green light, lashed out against the battlefield with a deep, muffled thud. It was this thud that jolted Crocodile, who had been lurking underground, waiting for an opportunity to attack, out. That's it, just as I expected. Melodic used Bubble Beam. Air's confident smile remained, intending to press on and inflict heavy damage on Crocodile. You underestimate me, even with just this much? Crocodile's sharp stone attack. A mocking smile crossed Miyamoto's calm face. Crocodile, still in midair, faced the attack of the Bubble Beam, surrounded by sharp stones swirling around him. Air watched eagerly as the bubbles, shimmering in the sunlight, were about to make close contact with Crocodile. The sharp stones surrounding Crocodile shifted, and the bubbles of the Bubble Beam burst like balloons, often piercing dozens with a single sharp stone. Air was stunned by the sight, filled with confusion. Why is this happening? Isn't water a counter to rock? How could Melodic, once so dominant, be at a disadvantage? Air's mood was utterly awful. She had been able to barely control the situation, but now it was completely out of her control. Haha, you really can't do it. Just hand over Melodic and Long-Tailed Fox. I'm much stronger than you, Miss Joy. The referee outside the ring also grew nervous. Watching the situation, she sighed inwardly, no way. Even though water types have an advantage over rock types in terms of attributes, the level difference is too great. Against a certain level of strength, any method or technique is useless. Minchao, use your Dragon Tail to sweep away the sharp rocks. Air reacted quickly and ordered Melodic to block, otherwise he would have to bear the brunt of the attack. The dragon's tail was like a steel whip, continuously lashing out at the sharp rocks. Use your bite now. As the dragon's tail continuously lashed out at the sharp rocks, the view previously obscured by the rocks brightened. The crocodile leaped into the air with its mouth wide open, attacking. Its already sharp teeth now gleamed with a blazing white light, giving off a chilling, sharp feeling. Because of the sharp stone blocking the way, Melodic didn't react, and it was too late to use any skills to remedy the situation. Mini Melodic let out a cry of pain as the crocodile's jaws snapped shut. Minchao, how you bite me hard just like that? Miyamoto laughed maniacally. Minchao, Air looked at the pained Melodic, her heart filled with heartache and self-blame. Hey, Air, this isn't the time to be distracted. Give the Melodic an order, Miss Joy, the referee suddenly shouted. Although this was a bit against the rules, seeing Air's distracted look, she couldn't help but remind him. Huh? What? Air was stunned, clearly still in shock. Miss Joy couldn't bear to watch it any longer. Air had such a high talent for Pokémon performance, but why did she become so stupid when battling others? What Miss Joy didn't know was that Air rarely battled Pokémon with others. Whenever someone challenged her, it was usually snatched away by the battle-crazed Yu. However, when battling Yu, she felt less nervous because they were already familiar with each other. Slapping her forehead, speechless, Miss Joy continued, Air, give the orders quickly. If this continues, your Minchao will lose its ability to fight. Oh. Minchao. Air finally came to her senses. Looking at the suppressed Minchao, she suddenly gave an order that stunned Miss Joy. Minchao, fight on your own. This is, perhaps Miss Joy didn't understand why such an order was given, but Serena, watching the battle intently from behind, her eyes lit up. Wasn't this the same order Yu gave during battles to hone his Pokémon's independent fighting abilities? Minchao. At Air's command, the Minchao cried out, its tail once again radiating an emerald green light. He lifted up the crocodile that was biting it and yanked it hard to the ground. Bang! A muffled sound was heard, and crocodile loosened its bite due to the pain and was thrown away. Then, A soft and comfortable light appeared on the body of Melodic, and the scars on its body began to gradually decrease. What is this? Air was stunned again. As a novice in training, Serena showed the spirit of asking if she didn't understand. She immediately took out the Pokémon Pokédex and checked it. Then she briefly introduced it to Air. This is self-regeneration, a skill that can restore combat power. Well, it was simple enough. Air jumped up excitedly after hearing it. Great, Melodic. Chapter 125, Melodic vs. Crocodile. So what if it regenerates? Crooked, use bite. Even after Crooked was flung away and Melodic regained his strength, Miyamoto Ichi remained calm, unfazed. Mr. Crooked opened its jaws, a gleam of cold light, and pounced on Melodic again. That's what I've been waiting for. Melodic, use bind. Perhaps it was because Melodic had pointed out the new move that it had given Air renewed confidence. By now, she had gradually calmed down. While still not completely composed, it was much better than before. Mr. Crooked this time, she had expected it to go as smoothly as last time. However, what Crooked hadn't anticipated was that, just as its jaws dropped, she felt a sudden tightening of her body. Melodic endured the pain of its sharp teeth biting into her flesh, and before Crooked could react, its thick tail had already wrapped around her. For a moment, the two Pokémon locked arms, one gripping the other like a vice, its jaws clenched tightly, the other's tail tightening like a rope. Their gazes locked, each filled with a fierce determination, neither willing to be the first to relinquish control or loosen the bonds. Air watched this scene unfold, and with the agonizing screams of Melodic, though still confident, her heart nearly leaped from her throat. Air hesitated, a conflict brewing within her. Should she let Melodic relinquish its hold or let it continue its fight against Crocodile? Perhaps sensing Air's thoughts, the still struggling Melodic screamed over and over, as if to reassure Air that it could hold on and must not give in. Air pursed her lips, her eyes fixed on Melodic's unyielding figure. Okay. Since hasn't given up, how could I? I have to trust just as you trust Pikachu and the others. Come on, defeat Croaker and show that guy we're no pushovers. Air clenched her fists and waved them in front of her chest. Come on, Croaker. As if inspired by Air's words, Croaker let out a painful cry, its once sharp eyes nearly popping out from under the tightening of the bindings. This cry caused Croaker to loosen its jaws, and seized the opportunity to quickly retract its body, completely binding Croaker. Great, that's what does. Don't give it a chance to fight back. Use charming voice. Unlike his son's jubilation, Miyamoto Ichi's eyes remained calm, as if Rogue Crocodile's injuries were nothing to him. With a deadpan expression, he ordered, Rogue Crocodile, use Ghost Face, then Sharp Stone Attack. Rogue Crocodile. Upon hearing the command, Rogue Crocodile immediately executed without hesitation, except for the pain. Frightened by the Ghost Face, jumped and instinctively released its tail. But with its release, Rogue Crocodile, like a tiger out of its cage, slammed its legs into using the recoil to leap into the air. Once again, icy shards of spiky stones formed around it. As Rogue Crocodile retreated, the spiky stones continued to fly. Facing this attack, Air lost her previous panic. With unprecedented confidence, she commanded, first, self-regenerate, then use Water Pillar Tail. A soft glow shone over Mincheo's body once again, and the wounds, once severely bitten by the Rogue Crocodile, healed at a visible speed. Meanwhile, sharp rocks, like machine gun fire, had reached Mincheo, just a few centimeters away from inflicting a few more wounds on its repaired body. But as her tail, wrapped in water like a club, whipped, swept, and chopped back and forth, the sharp rocks were blocked one by one. Alright. Warm-up exercises are over. Time to finish you off. The moment Mincheo blocked the sharp rock attack, Miyamoto's expression changed, revealing a maniacal laugh. Ha ha ha, Rogue Crocodile, use rock to seal. Mincheo, get out of the way. Use Shadow Clone, Air commanded immediately. Facing the boulders falling from the sky, Mincheo conjured dozens of shadows, moving serpentinely across the field, attempting to dodge them. But was it really that easy? Rock Seal lived up to its name. Boulders after boulders crashed down, sealing off Mincheo's hiding spots. As the boulders continued to fall, the number of Mincheo's shadow clones dwindled, until only the real Mincheo remained. But the real Mincheo wasn't in a good position either. blocked on all sides by boulders. With the exception of the opening above, there wasn't even a crack left. Seeing the remaining boulders about to smash through the opening and hot Minhao inside, Air gritted her teeth and ordered, "Minhao, use guard." At the critical moment when the boulders were about to fall, a green energy shield formed again, enveloping Minhao. As a green energy shield formed, neutralizing the rock seal attack, Air breathed a sigh of relief, patted her chest, and said with a look of relief, "Yes. Good job, Melodic." After all, Air had hesitated before because, while guard was 100% effective against all physical attacks, it also had a significant drawback. The more it was used, the more likely it would fail. Furthermore, Melodic had already used guard before, yet it was still working this time, clearly demonstrating that after the first time, it was a matter of luck. Crocodile, it's time to deliver the killing blow. Earthquake. While Melodic was still trapped by the boulders, Miyamoto Ichi took the opportunity to issue another order. This time, Melodic wasn't so lucky, as the boulders blocked its path, preventing it from dodging. Minhao, the earthquake shook the arena violently, sending up clouds of dust that obscured the view of everyone around, including the trainers on both sides. However, Miyamoto seemed unaffected and continued to order, "Bastard crocodile, quick send hell." End of this chapter. Thank you so much for reading until the end. Don't forget to give it a like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription or donation encourages us to continue. Thank you all. See you in the next video.